Expansion.
Welcome to the show, DJ Nino Brown. My
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
How you doing, my man?
Good.
Good to have you, man.
COVID.
Oh, yeah. We're keeping the distance. Well, the reason why we got this table is because it is exactly 1.5 meters distance between myself and the guest.
This way?
Oops. Paulie.
Come on, Paulie.
Come on, brother. It's supposed to be this way, not that way.
Can't
Oops.
trust the Armenian.
Here we go. He's already copping it. We just started. Nino, welcome, man. How you doing, my brother?
Good, I'm good.
Great to have you, man.
I'm a little offended. I thought I should have been the first guest, but I'm like,
I did say that.
numero tres.
Yeah, but he knew you were going to be coming out with the Armenian joke, so he's like...
And you weren't available, if I recall.
I'm just going to wake up with my feet cut off tomorrow.
Nah, but we've been very lucky, man. We've had a couple of good shows so far and excited to have you with us. The touring triple OG, DJ Nino Brown, the Chief Rock, Australia's #1 urban DJ.
Third time lucky.
Now, we don't normally do those,
I appreciate it.
but we know that you're one of those sound effects
I
guys.
like my jingles.
And actually, shout out to Que Sera, because for those of you out there who tune into The Edge, you'll often hear Brown with his little sound effects.
All the little whiz-bang sound effects.
Yeah. And when he gets a bit carried away, Que Sera gives him that look like...
Oh, when I'm in the studio, she gets mad as hell.
Yeah, that's right. But Brown...
Actually, I got to bring someone on this show.
Oh, here we go. Why did I say something for? But anyway, he's going to do his thing. I actually appreciate it, so go for it, man. I love him.
It's going to be me and I wake up with no feet tomorrow.
It's going to be a long night. Anyway, man, DJ Nino Brown in the building. There you go. It's a battle. Battle of the sound effect geeks. Nino Brown, Italian-Australian background.
Correct.
That's where he gets the good looks from. And the flavor, maybe. And the badness. Born and raised in Sydney, is that right?
Correct.
What area were you born in, brother?
I think I was born in Hornsby Hospital,
Okay.
but
Cool.
I always lived in the inner west.
Okay, cool. High school?
High school, I went to Holy Cross Boys Catholic School in Ryde.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Which
So a
was,
little bit up this way.
Yeah, jumped on the bus up Victoria Road,
Uh-huh.
and
What was that like?
it was an experience because I moved around a little bit as a kid for a few years.
What was
and
that?
to my parents where they had jobs. I lived
Okay.
in Tasmania for 2 years and Melbourne for a year. But I started year 8 at Holy Cross, and my dad went there.
Okay.
And his mind frame at the time was he'd probably get a little bit more discipline at a boys' school than a co-ed school.
Which is most people's kind of reason in some way, to kind of...
And for 1 year, they still had the cane. Then they changed the laws.
Oh, wow.
I got caned for 1 year.
And did you actually get caned? Or?
A couple. I mean, yeah, nothing crazy.
Nothing bad, but yeah. Were you a good student or...?
The cane is good, man. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't a good student, but like,
You became a good student.
yeah, like because they used to brothers would walk up and down the class and they just tap it on our shoulder,
Yeah.
just everybody. And I used to be fucking petrified. They were massive
Yeah.
fucking.
Oh, so they actually brought it out, even if you didn't fuck around, like they would just tap you with it. Just
Yeah,
to say, hey.
they used to just walk up and down, just tap it on the shoulder, like while you be doing shit.
Wow.
And I used to be like, fuck.
How times have changed, huh?
Yeah, but in that 1 year, it's what do you call it? Repetition makes
Yeah.
habits.
Yes.
So I was just like, fuck, it's easier to do this and cop that cane.
Uh-huh. And both your parents are like academic too, right? They're both
My
academics.
parents academic,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. They're super sharp.
Yeah,
Hence why they've got a sharp son.
potentially.
My man.
But that school was funny because it was a rugby school, patrician, what do they call it? A Catholic boys' cup or
Yep.
something.
Yep.
But I just remember going to the school and seeing dudes eat meat pies at recess
Wow.
and thinking like, fuck, these are like fucking men. I thought it was like a prison because it was like all dudes and they were fucking massive. And they used
Yeah.
to press bench presses and shit around the
Yeah, of
place at
course,
lunchtime
yeah,
because
yeah.
of football.
Yeah, big boys,
I
huh?
was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
What was the cultural makeup? Because that's so far from where I was raised. What was the cultural makeup? Was it mixed? Was it...
Yeah, it was mixed. It was, loosely just wogs, Lebanese, Greek, Italian,
Yeah.
Catholics.
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
And in the later years was when there was a big influx of Hong Kong Chinese.
Aha, because
So
the
those are-
Chinese have been moving
they
up
started
this way.
moving
Yeah,
over.
yeah. I've been hearing about the hills. Yeah.
I mean, Ryde's only 10 k's from the city or 15 k's.
Yeah, it's kind of halfway between. here and the city,
It's
yeah.
not even top right. It was before 3 or 4 k's before top right.
Okay, yeah.
But
It's like it's inner west, right? Or
I mean,
a little
it's
bit past.
sort of, yeah.
Yeah,
Like in
yeah.
my mind, from the city to Ashfield to sort of Gladesville is sort of,
Yeah.
you know. But it was funny because there weren't a lot of like Anglo Australians because I guess
Uh-huh.
they wouldn't go to a Catholic school.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it was funny because my first year of high school, I lived in Melbourne for a year, and I went to a private school. So you got public schools, which is free. You got
Yeah.
Catholic schools, which is like $1,500 a year or something,
Mm.
and then you got private schools that are like 25,000 or expensive.
Yeah.
And I went to this private school for 1 year, and that was funny because that was just all wealthy Anglo Australians, where it was kind of
Uh-huh.
like you're the wog, and then you come to Holy Cross, and it's just kind of like
spot the Aussie.
yeah, proper, you know.
So obviously you were identified, or you identified yourself as Italian.
Yeah, they would. That's what people would say.
Yeah.
You know. My
What-
mother's Australian, my father's Italian.
What about yourself? If people said to you, "Hey man, where you from?" or something like that, would you say I'm Italian, or was it not really a thing?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, my first name's Nino. I've got a super
course.
Italian sounding last name.
Of course.
No one thought I was
Yep.
Australian.
Yeah, you're right. That's not an Aussie name, Nino, but yeah,
Yeah.
by any stretch. So.
And like it was never an issue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, because sometimes you hear these are typical kind of Sydney stories, depending on what area you're in or whatever.
Oh,
Lots of
yeah,
Asians,
yeah.
this, that, or whatever. But I can't imagine it being too rough. But at the same time, Catholic schools, lots of boys, as you said, footy, big boys.
Oh, it's funny.
you know,
It wasn't rough for any reason except it was just testosterone.
testosterone. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it wasn't
that's
like
right.
people were poor or fighting me for my lunch because he was hungry.
Yeah, I get you.
That
It's
was
not the
just-
ghetto. It's not the ghetto, but it's still
that was
competitive.
fucking
and, yeah.
hard. Like
That's
and
right.
I remember seeing that dudes fight and like break noses and blood, and I'd be like, "What
Yeah.
the fuck?"
Yeah,
Like I'd be the new year 8 kid, so the start of year 8, and seeing
Mm.
2 year 11 or 12 kids
yeah.
punching on and
Yeah.
black eyes the next day.
Well, yeah, it's all boys too, so that kind of changes.
got that-
I went to a mixed high school, so I can't really relate. But I'm trying to imagine now.
Oh,
yeah, if it's all
totally
boys, it's something
different.
like
Because I did
jail,
1
you know?
year in I did 1
Yeah.
year in co-ed.
Yeah,
And there was guys trying to chat to girls, and
Yeah.
people would be kissing girls, whatever.
Mm.
Even year 7 and year 8, like young
Mm.
kids. But yeah, high school where it was all men. It was it would have been a similar thing. It was like I'm the top shotter, you're fucking next, you're getting bullied, you're this,
get in line. Yeah,
you know. And I remember, like I said, it used to be this football school. And at one point, they used to make us play football just to see if you could, and you used to get hammered playing football.
yeah.
So I just worked out if I didn't put my name on a sports list, I just disappeared out of sport. I never went to sports for like 4
Uh-huh.
years.
And you got one brother too, right?
Got a younger brother, 3 years younger than me.
Oh, okay, cool. Same high school or?
He got kicked out because he said, you would have loved him. He was like a conspiracy guy. He's like, there's no such thing as God, religion is all
Oh,
fake.
wow.
And they expelled him.
Oh man, I'm spiritual, bro.
But it was like, get out! Catholic
Really?
school.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, him doing too well in Catholic
He didn't
school, yeah.
last. He didn't
Yeah.
last. Less
Especially
than a
back
year.
in the, because I think nowadays they're a little bit more flexible with what they accept and what they don't. But back in the day, it was
Yeah, no.
fire and brimstone.
You
and
couldn't
Cain.
say it. You couldn't say it. Yeah.
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 And so not really kind of sporty kind of adolescence or youth.
No, not really.
You worked a lot, right?
Yeah, I used to have a job.
Yeah.
Like, and I used
After
after
school
school
and all
and
that,
things
yeah.
like that.
The fish markets.
And that was when I finished school.
Oh, okay.
I used to have a job at I got a job at Woolworths at Town Hall in the city,
Oh wow. Okay.
and that was I was talking to someone else about this the other day because all the kind of like kids that lived near the city,
Yeah.
whether you were in Glebe, Waterloo, Woolloomooloo,
Mm.
Pyrmont, that was because it's not like now where there's 100
No,
shopping centres.
that's
you know?
right, yeah.
That was, and it was a pretty cool spot because you got to meet heaps of people.
Oh, okay.
So I used to have a lot of fun.
Before and after.
Made friends
Yeah.
that I'm still friends with today from
Okay,
being
cool.
there
Yeah, it's hard to explain
and hanging
to
out
people.
in George Street. I don't know if you.
Yeah,
you're a
George
couple
Street
years younger,
was.
but it was like Orbit 600, and it was like that was the hangout spot, and
I
kids
was
would get
also-
rolled for their sneakers. And
Yeah.
that was the spot. But I'm a couple of years older than you.
Yeah, not only that, I actually didn't do the city much because we were like proper West, and going to the city was kind of rare. But I do remember George Street being a big focal point and like really like the true center of Sydney and kind of the
That was the spot.
kind of, yeah. I mean, there wasn't even like a proper Darling Harbour or anything like that, right? It was
No,
just
Darling Harbour was pretty trashy back then.
QVB and Pitt Street Mall.
Yeah, Pitt Street
that
Mall,
kind of thing.
QVB.
Yeah, that's it. And so, when did DJing or when did music kind of become the thing? Sort of like roughly what age and perhaps what were the reasons?
So at Holy Cross, I was telling this story to someone else on a podcast again recently, but a friend of mine, I still see him, he's a guy named Jason McGuinness, and I remember he was like, it was like my first, and you know, it's kind of like you said, in a sense, a bit like the jail thing. So I've come on my first day and this guy sat me down and he's kind of like, listen, you got to pick. There's 3 walks in life. There's skaters, there's bombers, and there's nerds.
Oh, wow.
You know, which way are you going to go?
Yeah.
You know? And I used to love graffiti. And spending the year in Melbourne, Melbourne's got really cool laneways and graffiti. And
they're a bit
I
more
think
like
a better
that.
street art scene than Sydney. So I loved it all. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a bomber. You know, and so I started listening to hip hop heavily from about 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
And there was dubbing tapes and Public Enemy and LL Cool J early stuff.
Oh, wow.
And back then, you know, so I was 11 years old. I've just turned 45. So everything was on vinyl. So I was buying vinyl records. I thought, I could be the DJ. That could be cool, you know. And I always liked the idea of being a DJ from early on then, but I'd never really seen anyone do it, you know. And
there wouldn't be many sort of role models or local role models and people to look up to.
Yeah, and even on MTV, like I was saying to someone else the other day, like I didn't know who, like for example, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And then if you saw a video, you knew who was who. Yeah. But Eric B and Rakim, I didn't know which was which. Yeah. How would you know? Yeah, there was a picture on the cover of the record, but you know.
There was no Google.
So it was a few years later, and I saw a few DJs, and I saw people DJing more around 14, 15, 16, and I liked the idea of it. But even then, I didn't know any DJs who made a living off it. Yeah. And I just wanted to just DJ, and I slowly got some equipment. I actually dated a girl once specifically because she had a direct drive turntable, which meant you could sort of DJ on it, you know. Yeah. But you know, got into that and started doing a few house parties and things. And my only real goal at the time was to be able to afford for the DJ to pay for the records. Yeah. Because the records were so expensive.
Very, yeah.
And you know the whole story. Yeah? You got the shebang, the whole DJ story.
No.
Oh.
No, I do want.
Oh, you do? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so that's
it's whatever you want, baby.
Yeah. So, and then time. You know, as you sort of go on, you know, you like the idea of DJing at the club. You go to the club, you go, hey, maybe I could do this, you know. And I remember, and you know, it was for Leno. There was a job opportunity at a club he had in like '93. So I was like, would have been like 18. You know?
Okay. But you've done a couple of house parties by then.
Yeah, done a few house parties.
Yeah.
You know, around that time, I was like the go-to house party. Any house parties in the city, Redfern, Waterloo, all the inner city, Marrickville, I was doing all the house parties. And it was some wicked times, you know, wicked house parties. And but I remember trying to get my first club gig, and Leno had this club, and I used to go watch him, and you know, he was a very smooth DJ, you know. Yeah. And I always appreciate something from everybody, you know. I used to like what he did, and then he had a back room, and there was 2 DJ slots, and there was 4 guys. And then I remember they gave us this big stack of flyers, and they're like, put your initials on the back and give it out to people. And I remember being, yeah. And I left, and I was just like, and I just dropped them. And people got to remember, this is the 90s, where it was kind of like,
pre-everything.
fuck you. Like, I'm not doing, you know, fuck you, you know.
Attitude.
So I'm like, yeah, cool. And at the time, I felt like I was the best out of the 4 guys they had for this back room, but I never got booked. And I was like, fuck, you know, what's going on? And the one guy who used CDs, and at the time using CDs was like
big no-no.
Yeah. And he wasn't the greatest DJ, but every time he played, 50 of his friends came. And I caught on real quick that promoters booked you if you could pull a crowd. Of course. Right? So I sort of picked up on that, and I was like, okay, I'd love to be a DJ at a club, but I'm not going to give out flyers. I'm not going to do this. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. And it's funny because at the time, because I didn't know any DJs that had a career, everything I did was out of pure passion because I didn't think it could be done necessarily. You know, the money wasn't there. It was a different world, different
like a hobby.
economy.
Yeah.
And so I did everything very passionately. But I was like, you know what, if I might just do some mixtapes and that might make my name buzz a little. And then I did a radio show with a friend of mine, Leo, shouts to Leo, on Skid Row. And we did that for a long time.
Yeah, man.
And between selling the mixed cassettes and the radio show, started making a little bit of a buzz. I mean, nothing crazy like by today's standards, but back then there wasn't really a lot of people doing stuff. Yeah. And the promoters from the Club Chocolate City,
Wow.
a guy named Francis,
Yeah.
he must have picked up one of my tapes, must have heard the show, and he reached out to me, and I got into playing at his club through that avenue. And, you know, the relationship starts a little differently when they come to you, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like anything was different financially, for example, but it was kind of like they came to me.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like,
You'd earned it. Yeah.
yeah, and I was a bit more like, sort of knew what I wouldn't do.
Sure.
And,
a bit more on your terms.
A little bit, yeah. And things just sort of slowly started cruising from then, from about 98. And the rest of that, from that point on, you sort of know, like, Moto did. He was the first to do a printed, proper professional mixtape CD.
CD, yeah.
I'd already done a couple of CDs before that. And then the third one I'd done at the time, I did on a proper pressed CD.
Yeah, with the nice artwork and everything. Yeah. And the name, Nino Brown, tell us about that.
Well, my first name's Nino, and the movie New Jack City, where Wesley Snipes played the villain. Exactly. And at the time, the only way to get your name somewhere was off a vinyl. Yeah. So it was perfect. A lot of rappers had referenced Nino Brown.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to do the DMC battles. I wanted to have my name on vinyl.
Yeah. Do you remember when you started looking around, because Nino Brown's quite a popular name with, you know, like a lot of people that follow the movie and that kind of gangster generation at that time. In Australia, there wouldn't have been any Nino Browns at all, like no. You know, guaranteed. But when you got like to like the website and everything, you never had any issues, right? Because you had DJNinoBrown.com, so you had it clean.
Yeah, I sort of jumped on everything
quite early,
like when it came.
Man. Yeah,
and you know, I guess, like I said, because everything I did, and it's funny because people look at you, and someone said to me once, "Oh yeah, you've got all the hookups," and I was like, "Well, I never started with all the hookups."
No, of course
you
not.
know, but because you do it as a passion and you're actually loving what you're doing. Like, I remember when Facebook launched the fan pages, right? Yep. And then I remember when they were going to allow you to get your own URL to the facebook.com/MC Rafa or DJ Nino Brown. But I always knew about those things. Yeah. And whoever I had helped me at the time, like you got Paulie working with you, I had someone like that working with me, and they'd be like, yeah, it's going to go live at midnight, I'll get the URL. So I was always careful, but I was always pretty good. I've never found another DJ Nino Brown. I think there's one in Canada. I think it might even be a girl, DJ Nino Brown. But I was always lucky with the URLs.
Definitely, you've been a trailblazer, because I recall not necessarily being close to you in any way. If anything, we're kind of distant, within the scene, but distant. But I remember DJNinoBrown.com, and I remember the, was it called
like
the wall back then?
Or a comment section or something?
Yeah. Whatever that was, I remember for a lot of us, it was, for whatever reason, it was like the go-to. And I remember a funny story, I don't think I told you this. I was staying in Kensington. I used to walk down the road to the video store to do emails and stuff, because they had like a, not a cyber cafe, but they had a...
Couldn't resist.
Yeah. Thank you. So I used to walk down to the video store, and they had the computer there, like, you know, like a little thing. And I mean, the internet was in its infancy. We're talking 98, 99. It had been around for a while, but it wasn't widely used.
And it was expensive. I think I paid like, I don't know how much I paid to make that website, but it was, it could be 5 or 10 grand. Like, it was something stupid at the time.
And I remember doing the thing, like I was emailing people, whatever. And then I will always finish by jumping on there and seeing obviously what other people had written. Yeah. And we used to have little like scuffles and stuff, and you know, people talking shit. So it's like Keyboard Wars, version 1. But I recall one time that a guy goes to me, somehow it came up that Nathaniel was locked up and Pupster was away because we were doing the Holy La Familia thing and all that. And then someone goes, and I was having a go with someone, like bang, bang, was comment after comment after comment after comment. And they go, oh, you know, why are you pussies away for, you know, parking fines? You know, some shit like that. And I wrote, no, motherfucker. I said, little niggy's is away for attempted murder and Pupster's overseas on the run for robbing banks, you know. Silence.
Yeah.
So that was my first keyboard battle on Keyboard Warrior Mode on DJNinoBrown.com circa 1999. So thank you, sir. But there's one thing a lot of people don't know about, and we'll pick up on the DJ thread later because you've done everything there is to be done in Australia and internationally. I would also say as well. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about. When did the martial arts, the ninja stuff come in? Because you're quite dedicated at that, or you were for a very long time, right?
I did that for a long time back then, years ago.
Yeah.
But I used to go home really sore.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of hand twisting and stuff.
So adolescent years, or so we're talking after high school? Right?
After high school,
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
And you know, if anyone's done any boxing or stuff like that, like
fuck your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get sore. And I used to at the time. So this must have been 94, 95 because I did the DMC in 97. I did the DMC in 98 and 99. So I must have stopped about 98 because I used to go home with sore fingers. Ninjutsu is a lot of finger stuff and
grabbing,
pulling fingers sideways. And I used to go home like aching.
Yeah.
And
it don't go well with DJing.
Nah, so I stopped that for a couple of years. But yeah, that was cool. And it was as much of a mental thing as a physical thing.
Yeah.
And
but so what do they have belts? How does that work?
Yeah, they have belts. Yeah.
So what's the art? What's the?
It was ninjutsu.
Ninjutsu.
It was
ninjutsu.
the whole.
That's right. Sorry, ninjutsu. I said ninja.
And it was the we used to do
Fuck.
It was cool. It was cool. It was a little bit more full on back then.
Yeah.
And then certain laws changed, things changed.
Yep.
Because ninjutsu is, and I appreciate all forms of things. Like I can't watch MMA because they just hurt each other so much.
Yeah.
And with ninjutsu, the idea is to hit someone a couple of times, get away, and
that's right. It's more practical, let's say, or more everyday life.
Yeah.
Because you also they teach you how to pick up things and
and these guys just hit like those MMA guys are like they like stand and fight guys. And it's a different.
Yeah.
They can take hits. They can.
Well, they got rules as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't like watching MMA.
Okay, cool.
But I've got it's a different thing. Like it's poking people in the eyes and it's survival fighting. So ninjutsu is like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
In that respect.
That's right.
And so some of the things that they'd show you were quite dangerous.
And how many years did you do that for? Or is it?
I've done it on and off for like 20 something years.
Okay,
20
and
years,
there's a belt system, and how far did you go?
I've got my black belt, but
Black
you can
belt
go.
ninjutsu, wow.
You can
I
go.
didn't know that, my brother.
Yeah, I showed you a photo.
Ah, man.
So
been
many
lost
photos.
over the years. Sorry, mate. Yeah,
So
we've got some photos to show later.
Give me a one.
No.
But no. But I got.
Photos.
And it's funny because the more you study stuff like that, the less you ever want to get into it with anybody because,
That's right. That skinny little bloke walking down the street.
Yeah, we got a little Filipino guy,
Glasses.
almost 50, glasses. He's like the guy off Ocean's 11. Like and he'll backflip on the table and kick you in the face and all that. And then we had another guy in the class that was 65, but had just exercised his whole life and was like a lean machine. He was the best guy in the class. He was 65 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's a bit of Russian roulette fucking with strangers, man. You never know, bro. But
100%.
We're kind of used to the big buff look being scary and whatever. And I've actually spoken over the years. I've crossed paths with a couple like proper fighters, like world champ boxers and kickboxers and stuff. And they always say, and they don't look like that. Most of them.
It's the skinny guys with the long arms, man.
Yeah, and actually funny you say that, but that's kind of the thing that he said. Adam Watt, shout out to Adam Watt, wherever you are. He actually said to me, he goes, it's not the big buff blokes that go to the gym you got to worry about. It's the other guys that got the elasticity and the full range of movement. And they said, if anything, that most of the proper pro or pro level fighters are not gym looking buff, big traps and bars and everything. So, no to everybody out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm catching up with a friend of mine tomorrow. His name's Andrew. Shouts to Andrew. And I used to hate fighting him at ninjutsu because he used to have these long arms.
Yeah,
So
reach.
and I was like, "Fuck, you're not supposed to actually smash me, bro."
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Oh," but yeah.
But you're still looking after the hands, right? Because I remember over the years you used to say, the hands with the weights, and because we trained a lot back in the day together when I got out.
Yeah. I went through a phase where doing push-ups was killing my
Yeah, the wrist.
things, but I've
Yeah.
sort of keep my hands like this now, so I'm all right. I got body's in a better spot now, I think.
Well, I definitely want to talk about that, man, because there's so many things about you that are inspirational and also motivational, but also I've said to many of the kids that have been coming up over the years, DJs, and obviously I've worked with I don't know, hundreds. When the conversation comes up about, because a lot of them, they reach out and what should I do, whatever, and I always say, follow whatever Nino Brown does.
Yeah.
But basically that's what I say, because you've carved that path, and so many others have come up behind you. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't have the dedication that you have, and I don't think there's no point anyone being talented or having an amazing skill set if you don't have that dedication, where you're day in, day out, you're in there, you're doing the thing year after year.
Yeah, and you got to love it, man. If you don't love it,
you have to love it. Yeah, it comes back to being passionate about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of people now, especially with the DJ thing. And it's funny, we spoke about my brother. Like, my brother's a techno producer and a bit of a DJ as well.
Yeah.
And he's like more the producer who sometimes DJs, while I'm the DJ who sometimes produces.
Yeah.
But he said it perfectly once. He was just like, now everyone wants to be famous.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at DJing as an entry into being famous.
Yep.
Which I thought was poignant.
Yeah, I get you.
And like, it's an interesting conversation. Like, I could talk about it all night, but people talk about things like, DJing isn't what it is, and nothing is what it used to be. Everything evolves, everything changes,
Yeah.
And I rattled off names of some DJs that were doing the clubs before myself, and I was like, you remember this guy or that guy? Like, that guy looked terrible, or that guy was a slob, or that guy was an arrogant prick. But at the time, that guy had the records. You needed the records.
Yeah, it was more about that.
Right? So people would put up with a lot of shit.
Yes.
Because if such and such had the records, you put up with the grumpy such and such,
No
you know
doubt.
what I mean? Because they had the records, you know? And
we actually mentioned this a couple of times, not only general conversations, but I had Sebi on a couple of days ago, DJ Sebi, shout out to Sebi.
oh, so Sebi was on before me?
Yeah, sorry, brother.
Wah, wah.
I think it's this one.
Continue.
No, so back in the day, you know better than I do, but DJs had to spend some serious money
Yeah.
on.
I used to spend 20 grand a year.
There
And
you
I
go.
remember my accountant being like, "Is this real?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah."
Yeah. And you had to go to the places and to the shops and be in touch with the people working at the
Yeah, it
shop,
was
and
all
when the white labels
relationships
came in, and then
Yeah.
because nowadays obviously you jump online, you order anything you want from anywhere.
Yeah.
That wasn't like that.
And
back
I
in those
remember,
days.
and I'm going to use Moto as an example, and obviously Moto's a dope DJ, right?
Of course.
But
Shout out to Moto.
There were shouts to Moto, but I remember once a promoter saying, blah, 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 and I booked DJ Moto, maybe when he was newer, I think I got in the clubs just a little bit before Moto, not
Yeah.
much, 6
Same
months.
generation,
Yeah. And because he owned the record store, they were just kind of like, well, he's going to have the best music because he owns the record store. So that was definitely a thing. And like,
Yes.
if you talk about natural evolution, like I feel the generation of DJs before me, there were a lot of guys like, I mean, even Robert and Eddie from Soul Sense,
Yes.
right? They used to DJ, right?
Yep.
Shouts to Robert and Eddie.
Yeah.
Now they were more like you call them selectors. Like they had phenomenal taste in music, impeccable record collections.
Yep.
They weren't technical DJs by
No.
any means.
Crowd
but at
rockers,
the
no.
time, they had the songs.
Of
right?
course. Unfair
Then if I was the
advantage.
next generation, I might have had the songs, but then I had the technical ability,
That's right.
right? And then that generation ruled for a long time. And what's happened since now is there's people that can have all the music, They may not be as technical, but they're technical enough to get by.
Yeah.
But they might look better.
Of course.
They've got different ways to attract a fan base.
Yeah.
And you can't be mad at that. And that's half the reason what prompted me to try and get in shape and do all these other things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think ever since MTV came into the picture, I mean, obviously we're going a long way back, but even since they came in, more and more became also about the image, and sometimes even more about the image than it is about the sound, both as an artist and as a DJ and
Of
entertainer
course.
and everything.
I mean, it's like
yeah.
you look at Milli Vanilli and all these things. Like
That's
they were
right.
all, manufactured things. And
Yeah.
these things have always been there. Like
No doubt.
I've had conversations with people, people talk about, and I love trick mixing, but they're not, and I remember saying to somebody, like, people say, oh, trick mixing isn't in anymore or whatever, but I don't even know if it ever was. Like maybe, I don't know whether at the time we did it and people kind of had to put up with it because we were the
Yeah.
only people, there wasn't 10 clubs. If it was me and Moto playing somewhere, Chocolate City Friday night, we're both cutting up a lot. If you didn't like that, well, fucking tough shit.
I'll tell you what I remember and what I saw and what I felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but back in the day, the DJ had all the power. He had all the aces. He had all the cards because, nowadays with streaming and YouTube and all these things and downloading, and ever since those days, you can essentially find any song in the world that you want, any remix that you want, almost instantly and quite easily. But back in the day, you guys had all that power.
Yeah, you had the records.
Yeah, you had the records, and the only way you could hear that record is number one, go to the club. Number two, buy your mixtape, or then maybe on community radio or
Different
something like
things,
that.
yeah.
So people were very engaged
Exactly.
with the DJ.
Yeah.
And then I think that brings in the point that you were kind of alluding to a little bit is the trick DJ stuff. I think it was more popular then, and then battle MCing came in a bit later with 8 Mile and all that kind of stuff. So it's waves and it's generations, but also I think it was due to the fact that because you had all this attention as a DJ,
People were paying more attention, were more interested. Yeah,
more
for sure.
interested, yeah, and you had
For
the
sure.
4 decks, and I mean, when
All
was the
that
last
stuff,
time
yeah.
you seen a show with 4 decks?
Yeah, and at the time, like the things that we were doing on 4 decks, you can do now with 2 with technology and stuff
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah, that's
But
right.
and like what I said to people as well is, at the time, all those things were newish,
Yes.
right? So they were exciting.
Yeah.
But all these things have their period,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
And
It's
then
the waves, man.
after a while, things change, and
Yeah.
like I said, and it's funny, we're going to talk about it later on, but I used to be very out of shape, and it's
Yeah.
funny, you don't realize it, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, what the fuck,
Mm.
This big belly, where'd that come from? But
Yeah.
at the time, hip hop was out of shape, right?
Definitely.
So
The big
it was
boys
it was
rule,
okay,
Yeah.
And then people sort of say, as soon as 50 Cent came out,
That's right.
that
change
was
the
the
game.
line in the sand,
Ja Rule had the thing a little bit where he had the buff body and stuff.
Ja
but
Rule did,
50 definitely.
but I think
put
because
her over the
because Ja
LL
Rule,
kind of had it. He was like the only kind of guy.
LL
but-
was like the enigma.
yeah.
But I think 50, and maybe people, LL's such a legend that maybe
Yeah.
it was like, well, that guy's just a legend, like he's not a real person, sort of thing. But 50 Cent maybe seemed street enough where a lot of people were kind of like, I could do that, like
Yeah.
I could be.
We're more thug route, more street route. Yeah.
Yeah.
LL was always his own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but look, I'm not mad at the DJ world. Like, I think like anything change is good, and just like COVID and everything we're experiencing now, like he who adapts.
You have to roll with the punches, brother. No doubt about
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
he who adapts best
Survives.
wins.
Yeah, wins. Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's funny because I was saying to someone the other day, like everything that I did that made my career happen in some ways is valueless now, and it's all the new things that you do to keep the
That's
attention.
right,
It's
man.
funny, like I feel like everyone in the country knows DJ Nino Brown is this big hip hop DJ, but they may not know why.
That's
Right?
right.
But this generation don't care. They're like, oh,
No.
he's this, as long as you're doing things. So,
Yeah.
me putting out music, the Eminem tour last year, all those things
Huge.
remind people and
Yeah,
let
man.
them see you. And then once they see you and they enjoy the experience,
Yeah.
then a different thing,
Cool, man. But that's a cool segue because you mentioned Eminem tour, which is massive, and it's almost like the culmination of all these gigs over
Yeah.
the years. Probably the biggest out of
Of course, yeah.
huge run of gigs. So we're talking probably late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
All the way up to 2020.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into where did you go from this club to that club to this residency to that residency, because that would be a very long night for us. But one thing you've done a lot of is these big gigs and then going interstate and internationally. But at what point did it really become national? Because there's a lot of people that do the Sydney thing and they do it really well.
Yeah.
And they've been holding it down for a very long time. But you're quite renowned because you essentially do not stop touring. Like you're very bro. You're always moving and you got lots of. Almost residencies in all different parts of Australia.
Yeah, so what happened with me was, at one point in Sydney, there was Gas Thursday,
Yeah.
Chocolate City Friday,
Yeah.
there was EP1 Saturday,
Yeah.
and there was Mothership Sunday.
Yep.
And there was guys like myself, Moto, Peter Guns. There was a few, like 4 or 5 guys that were the main guys, you know.
Definitely.
But I had my residency, I probably played once a month or maybe every second week or regularly somewhat. Gas Thursdays. I played Chocolate City Fridays. I used to play every second week at EP1 and then Mocha for a little while. And then Sunday at Mothership. And I remember a few times thinking, you know, this is cool, and I was super appreciative, but I was just like, at the same time, it's the same fucking thing every week. Imagine if I could fly around the country. That'd be cool. So I always had that dream, you know. Excuse me. And then as I realized, if you build your name, people will book you. I knew I was good enough as a DJ, but I had to do things to get people to book me.
Raise your profile, yeah.
You know, and then I started going to Canberra first. Shouts to my man Chad, Fanbiz. I used to play for him. I used to go to Newcastle and do a few things. And at the time, with the mixtapes, the first guys to travel a little bit were myself and Moto. I remember, and funny, me and Moto, we're totally cool, but we've never really hung out. We've always just been busy doing different things.
Different paths.
But I remember a couple of times once being on a plane and seeing them load up his record crates and be like, oh, fuck, he must be on this flight. And we're both going to Perth for some big weekend.
Uh-huh.
But that sort of slowly started happening.
Off the back of the mixtapes.
Off the back of the mixtapes,
Yeah.
And then for me as well, off the back of the DMC, that sort of separated me because at the time I was pretty much the only club DJ doing the DMC actual battles, even though a lot of guys were trick mixing, but I sort of stepped up and did the battle, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, Samurai became a club DJ, very successful, but that was after the DMC. We all met then, and
shout out to Samurai, man. He's a beast. Shout out to Samurai. We're going to get him on the podcast soon, hopefully, man.
But that was all that, and then when I did that deal with Universal, that was a big deal, obviously. And we had TV commercials, and that just took it all to another
remember
level.
all that.
So,
I remember seeing those.
And that made it go national. Like I said, just before Blazing, I was definitely doing Perth a couple of times a year, and I was sort of slowly going everywhere, which helped me do the deal with Blazing, because back then labels would give you money if you were a totally brand new artist. They had to basically give you money to do promo tours. But I was kind of like, I'm being paid to play, already, so I can promote this album at these events. Yeah. So that helped me sort of.
And you had that national reach name already, so there was less development to be done. Yeah. Cool.
So that's how that all sort of kicked off.
And then so Blazing was a huge run. I remember at the time I was active at the time, and it was it around the same time as Fig Kid, Lee Monroe kind of got
similar
his deal.
sort of time.
Yeah, similar. So I remember a lot of people kind of paying attention, but I actually recall Blazing making a lot more noise. That your deal more so than sort of any artist or R&B singer or hip hop act or anything. From Australia, it was a huge deal.
It was big news at the time. Yeah, and it was interesting, and all these, like I said, they say hindsight's the best teacher, but at the time I didn't know any of this.
No, there's no script,
and
no role models really. You're carving.
No, I was looking. Funkmaster Flex had done it in America, but I didn't really understand how he'd done it. And I was just trying to work out record company politics, and I'd start relationships with people and start things, and they'd leave or get fired, or I remember once I was trying to set up. I wanted to be signed to Loud Records. Remember Loud Records? They had Exhibit, Wu-Tang, Big Pun, and I went to the UK for 4 or 5 weeks, and when I came back, everyone I knew at Sony had been fired. Like something had happened. It was just like they all got fired. So you come back and not know anybody,
With my parole officers, used to develop a relationship in them.
Yeah. So
sorry,
but that was a big deal, and that helped it. And then what I used to do is like same thing, because I'd be like, there's if you had me at your club in Cairns, shouts to Zach at Gilligan's. Like if
Zach,
he got me
hey,
at Gilligan's,
man. Yeah, Zach,
and
shout
that
out
went
to
good.
Zach.
And then sometimes another club would try and get you, so you'd work
Yeah.
out a deal and be like, look, if you pay me X amount of dollars for this many times a year, we'll be exclusive. So I've always built those relationships. And the one thing that I've done, which other people haven't, but it's kept me here, and maybe they're not here now, is that like, if I did a deal with you for $3,000 3 times a year, and someone else offered me $10,000 10 times a year, I'd still say no because I'd given my word.
Yeah, man.
And you'd demonstrated that you could make it happen.
Yeah.
Where a lot of guys would just take the bigger check. That
Yeah.
party would bomb. They've upset the other guy. So I've always maintained all those relationships.
You know what, man? I heard similar comments made by some other OGs. Speaking to people like Fulanito, which is a very popular like Latin hip hop guy from back in the day. They were talking about, a lot of people kind of, when they're on top, they go superstar and whatever, and they burn a lot of bridges because their fame. With their fame, they can charge whatever they want and be a lot more demanding or prima donna or whatever. And in that conversation with him, shout out to Dos, Rafael Dose Vargas, Fulanito. He was saying that the reason why all these years later, because Fulanito came out 20 years ago, I can't remember, 25 years ago, whatever it was, and this guy's still touring, still playing. He said it's because not only the music, obviously, but those personal relationships that he developed and protected over the years have kept him going. So he's playing with in the same cities with the same guys for all these years. Year on, year out. So that, I guess, that loyalty is a two-way street.
100%. And it's funny.
Got a show to give,
Yeah, and like I hate the word loyalty.
Yeah.
Because I think like
it's wanky in business. I know.
Well, I feel like dogs are loyal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people, if you do good business, we're going to do good business.
Exactly.
It's a mutual respect.
Mm.
And like, it's just like any relationship, you've got to maintain it and you've got to do the right thing. And,
got to water that plant, man.
Yeah. And the other thing, like I said, I'm pretty grounded in the sense that you mentioned the fish markets before. Like when I finished school, I had a 6-month break before I could go to TAFE. I went and did a business diploma. I started that at TAFE. And I worked at the fish market for 6 months. My parents were in that world for a while. And that was a shitty job. I made great money. I was unskilled, out of school, made like $1,000 a week, doing like 60 hours a week or something.
Insane money those days.
But it was hard, 13-hour days, cleaning fish. It smelled bad. Like it was the kind of thing, like I said, most people are like, I'm not going to do that. But I did it, Yeah. So then to make the money that I can make now, and I think about what I've done to earn money, I'm happy, bro.
Yeah. It's rounded.
And you got to deliver. Like even then, for example, like sometimes you don't want to. At the same time, you don't want to overcharge people, even if you can. Like sometimes you get people that are a bit, I don't want to say dumb, but they might be a bit starstruck and they think you're going to charge all this money. And but if you book me for something and I know you can afford to pay me this amount, I'd rather charge you that to have future business than to charge you 3 times you pay, you're wrecked and no more money again,
Yeah, no, I hear you. So just coming back to kind of like the timeline, if anything. So now Blazing's out.
Blazing sort of came out 2002, I believe it was.
2002, and that ran
right up until 2014 was the last actual CD.
Wow.
So I did Blazing, sort of like a Blazing 1 with Nick Toth.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, he had visa issues, couldn't do the second one. So Samurai came in sort of halfway and took over. Samurai and I did Blazing 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
Blazing 5, that came out in 2006. Sort of hip hop and R&B was having an all-time high in Australia.
I bought that CD at Lithgow Correctional Facility, man.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I purchased that. I had that with me, man. Inside.
You're on that CD?
Yeah.
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 And at the time, the Edge had just kicked off. And they were going full guns blazing hip hop and R&B.
That was a big thing at the time too.
That was
Shout out to
big for me as well.
K-Sarah. Yeah, again, yeah.
And that's a funny story. Just touching on that, my brother knew the program director, and the program director knew my brother, had a brother who was a hip hop DJ, and his name was Charlie Fox. Shout out to Charlie Fox.
Charlie Fox.
And Charlie did his research, and he rang my brother, and he's like, "Listen, I need you to ask your brother if he knows Nino Brown. He's the guy I need. I've done my research." And my brother was like, "That's my brother." So then that made that even easier because he wanted me, and he and my brother were like good friends. They worked together for like 15 years or something, and so that made that easy. And Charlie Fox is like a legend in the radio world.
Yeah.
And then back to Blaze in 2005. During all this time, the Edge is fucking with everyone's ratings, and Nova try and battle a little bit, so they get Samurai on Saturday nights. Now this was fucking great for us because I did
That's
5
right.
15-minute mixes. They're 12 and a half minutes. I did 5 of them, but they were on every day. They've got ways in radio. They play this one at this time and this one at this time.
Yeah.
But I was essentially on 5 times a day, Monday to Friday. And then Samurai was on Nova, which was fucking massive.
That's right.
On Saturday.
It had just come out around that time, I think, Nova.
It was newish, been a couple of years.
Yeah.
So
Still
we
had
were
a lot of buzz.
Yeah, so this was huge. And then at the time, they offered Sam his own deal. They sort of decided to split us, right? They offered Sam his own deal, and I stayed with Blazing because that was my name, and I had it in my deal that they couldn't use the name without me, etc. So it was essentially I owned the name for all intents and purposes. And Sam went off to do his stuff and his releases, and he was on Nova for a good while, and I stayed on the Edge. And then a year or so later, I can't exactly remember how long, the Edge stopped being all hip hop R&B and went back to being sort of like pop, girl friendly, and I was on less. And I had periods where I wasn't on at all. I'd come and I'd go, but I've always essentially been around the Edge, you know.
Yeah.
And it's been cool, man.
So now, biggest DJ in the country.
So the Urban Music Awards, I think it was 2007, 2008.
Yep.
And I won Best DJ, Urban DJ for that.
Yeah. So the cool thing for me is throughout all this period, I'm sitting on the sideline. So it's cool so I can kind of catch up, I guess. I remember seeing things because, thankfully my mum and my sister used to send me lots of photos, and then you guys have started visiting and stuff like that, which was awesome. Never to be forgotten. And you're basically doing almost what you want. Like really, you can't really get much higher than that as far as the Australian urban DJ role model or go-to guy or number one guy, essentially. With not many people in second, third, fourth position. Tell us about the highlights of the gigs at the time and all the way ending with Eminem, because you've done lots of massive shows. Superfest comes to mind.
It was
that era.
Look, there was a lot of good shows, and there was it was funny. I felt like there was definitely a period there where there wasn't any type of concert that I wasn't playing. And then I guess as the scene got bigger, there were bigger shows and there were little shows. So someone might be touring The Game who at the time may not have been doing a stadium on his own, but it might have been like a Luna Park show. And I used to sometimes do those gigs and sometimes not. And it was funny, you get to a certain point and some people think, oh, that guy's just going to be too expensive. We won't even call him. So sometimes I used to almost be like, why didn't you call me? And I'm like, oh, we just can't afford you. And I was like, well, you never asked, motherfucker. Like, you don't know. Like,
I think it's a Sydney or an Australia thing too. People don't reach out that much.
Yes and no, you know. And the other thing is in the entertainment world, and shouts to all the DJs, everyone trying to do their thing, like a lot of concert promoters, sometimes it's a hard way to make money.
Definitely.
I feel like a lot of concert promoters, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of shiesty concert promoters, but there's a lot of good concert promoters too who have done their ass, So sometimes things end up costing more money. They actually don't really have any money for a DJ. And, people are like, oh, play for free, get exposure. And sometimes, it
works.
I got paid on Eminem, thankfully. It was amazing.
But you would have
Eminem,
done,
but I would have done it for free. That one I would have done for free.
Most definitely, man. Yeah, most definitely.
So I've never been, just touching on that, I've never been like people, and Tickles is one of my favorites. Between you and Tickles, Facebook's great. But and I'm just using Tickles. I'm just using Tickles as an example here because sometimes Tickles will say something like, "Oh, guys, do this for that," and he's right, But then sometimes I can see both sides. You know what I mean? To a degree, I'm not big on people trying to undercut each other or whatever. But you know, but with those concerts, they were all pretty cool. And I did the Rock the Block tour, and I was DJing for Smash Proof, which was a New Zealand group who at the time were sort of no ones.
You brought them to see me at Lithgow.
Yeah, Tyree, right?
Tyree came down. Yeah, that's right. Tyree.
We did some
that's
gig,
right.
yeah. And at the time, so they were signed to Universal, and so Universal Australia, like we said, we're investing in them, giving them tour support to tag along with me places, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I did that gig DJing for them. Universal got them on the Rock the Block, and at the time that was Jay-Z, Neo, and Rihanna. And it's an interesting time because Neo was a very new artist,
Yeah.
and not... It's funny, if I say not successful, it sounds bad, but I mean, he was so new that he wasn't successful yet.
Yeah.
He was just about to blow, you know?
Yeah.
Rihanna was blowing,
Yes.
and but it was interesting because when Rihanna would finish and Jay-Z would start, some people would leave because Jay-Z was not so huge at the time. And this is not Jay-Z as we know him today, where he's
far from
he's
it.
like an
Especially
icon.
in Australia. Especially in
At
Australia.
the time,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just looked at as music, you know.
Yeah,
And there were times when I used to be like, man, I've outsold Jay-Z in Australia, you know, but like because he wasn't selling crazy
No.
here, but that was a crazy tour. That was a lot of fun. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan.
What year is that?
I think that might have been 207, 208.
Okay, cool.
And the guys who ran that, shout out to Dwayne Cross,
Yep.
they went on to do Superfest.
Yeah.
So I met them there.
Yeah.
And then Superfest was its own
Yeah.
beast. And that was a lot of fun. Like nothing
Yeah.
had been done like it before.
I was around for that, yeah.
And I don't think anything had been done like that anywhere. They were saying it was the world's biggest urban
hip-hop
festival.
Yeah.
That many people at once.
Yeah.
So I think I did the first Superfest. You were still away.
2010, man. The first one I was out for. That was a Pitbull and Akon. And
Okay,
that
because that's
was
funny.
the first
I
one,
can't
right?
remember who was
Yeah.
on.
It's much
which-
easier for me to remember because I got that timestamp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
What you laughing at?
and that was cool. That was cool. You got a photo of me with people, right?
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, we're
that
gonna show
was-
some photos.
That
later,
was
man.
cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. And
So I just want to take you back to an era because I was away again till 2010, 2003 to 2010, and that New Zealand hip hop boom.
yeah,
You obviously had a bit to do with that because those guys were coming over and you were in through Universal and whatever. You know.
I mean,
you
yes
guys,
and no. Like, I mean, I had a relationship with Tyree.
Relationship, yeah,
Tyree
yeah.
lived with me for 4 months.
Wow. Okay.
Poor.
Cool. I didn't know.
Shouts to Tyree, man. I used to
Yeah.
fucking send him mad. But I mean, I was around. You know, Savage was a big success.
Yeah. When I say you had to do with that, I'm not saying you can take credit for the movement, but what I'm saying is those guys obviously came over to Australia.
Yes.
And you know that's where your involvement kind of came into it in
Yeah,
Universal.
correct.
And
So-
as you said, taking the guys around, doing gigs with them.
Yeah, it was mostly
Yeah.
Tyree. They tried to break Tyree as a solo artist
Yeah.
first. And
Was that ladies and gentlemen from house party to the club?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was funny, and there were wild times because Tyree's, at the time, and especially with hip hop, where there's a lot of guys that claim they're street guys and all this kind of stuff. But Tyree was one of those dudes who wasn't really claiming any of that stuff in his music. But he was wild,
Uh-huh.
We went to a lot of places and fights would almost break off, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, that guy said this to you." Or like, "Hey, it's all good."
Oh man, it
So-
was wild, huh?
Yeah, a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. And I remember once we had something at the Arias even with Phrase, and yeah, it was fun. But it was all looking back, it was all good times. But yeah, and then Smash Proof came later, and I think the New Zealand that whole boom happened because New Zealand loved New Zealand hip hop,
Yeah.
and New Zealand, I think, just culturally was more in tune with hip hop,
Yeah, definitely.
and
yeah, most definitely.
the whole
man.
accent debate, which was a thing at the time, no one in New Zealand cared.
Yeah.
They just loved the music.
Man, I remember I used to stop by New Zealand every year on my way to South America, to Uruguay. You had to do that back in the day. The flights were only Sydney, Auckland, Santiago or whatever. And I used to go see my family in New Zealand. I got family in New Zealand. Shout out to my brothers, to Richie, to Josh, to Andrew, and Ruby, and Bruno, and my old man, and Megan, and everybody over there in New Zealand, my family. But and I remember they picked me up. My dad picked me up from the airport, and we jumped in the car, and he was playing some fucking jazz, you know, rah rah rah, because he's a percussionist and this and that. And I asked him if I could change the radio, and I put the radio on, and I remember clearly it was Ready or Not by the Fugees.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like we don't play this on the radio in Australia, or barely, maybe like on a Saturday night. Remember when we had those hip hop things? But this was like in the morning, like drive time, you know. And then song after song was R&B and hip hop. And then eventually, he didn't know, my old man didn't know, but eventually I learned from the locals that they've got like dedicated. They had all the way back then. They had dedicated
They got
R&B and
My FM.
hip hop, you know. So
My FM, and my mixes are on air on My FM on Saturday nights. Shout out to DJ Severe and Jordan Lee and all the crew. But
Severe, he's an OG, right?
definitely. They're the number one station in New Zealand. Period.
Wow.
Like it's all hip hop and R&B, but that's the number one station.
Well,
where
there you go.
they're not the number one hip hop R&B station. They're just the number one
The
station.
number one, yeah. Across the board, yeah.
Yeah, just like
Wow.
could be ABC or whatever.
I'll get you.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the New Zealand thing was crazy. You know,
Yeah.
Dawn Raid did a big deal.
Yeah.
They did a mix CD with Peter Guns and Tickles.
I remember that,
Street
man.
Dreams, you know.
Shouts to Peter Guns too, man.
Wasn't quite as good as Blazing. No, I'm just messing with you. They did their thing, you know.
Here we go.
And we actually tried to get Peter Guns to do a CD with Universal. I tried to put that together.
I think I remember hearing about this.
Yeah.
But he wasn't allowed to because of the Dawn Raid? No.
No. It was nothing to do with that. I mean, at the time, he was doing the stuff with Dawn Raid,
okay.
and that ended up going with Warner's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I was away, so I get my wires crossed a little
Yeah.
bit. I remember hearing this from you and from the boys, because the boys used to
And
come
Guns
visit
used
me
to
a
be
while.
one of the models for Dawn Raid for the clothing line. I think he was on billboards in New Zealand.
Well, he's a handsome man.
Very handsome guy.
Yeah.
But
Scribe,
yes,
P Money,
all these guys,
Savage.
huge,
man,
huge.
great. I mean, Scribe, Dreams. I love that
Yeah.
track, and not many. And man, what a run, New Zealand hip hop, and they're still doing their thing. They still got the thing.
Definitely.
Just that. I guess, as we were saying before, these things kind of go in waves, and that was a big wave at the time. And
Yeah, and I think, look, I'm sure people in New Zealand are still killing it. At
No
the
doubt.
time, it was the thing, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe to a degree, Australia's having that now with the new generation of drill rappers, and
Yeah.
it's funny because everyone used to get, the underground people used to get their knickers in a knot about the American accents, but now you've got all these Australian kids sounding like UK drill rappers.
Well, you know what, man? That's actually a good point, because I mean, I think hip hop and urban and people of color and islanders and blacks and I think in many ways for the media they're almost like easy targets or something, because I remember Kylie Minogue used an American accent in her songs. I mean, obviously there's much less words being said because it's sung and whatever. But if you listen to In Excess, they don't sing in Australian either.
Yeah.
So that's been happening forever. AC/DC.
Of course, and depends how you speak normally. Like
No doubt.
I'm not putting an accent on now, but I'm not
No.
but I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but-
look, it's an interesting thing. Like shouts to Q Busy. He was my old next door neighbor.
Man,
Mark
shout out
and
to
Yael.
Mark, man. Yeah,
And
shout out to them, man.
They
Good
did a
people.
song
Great
for
people.
Blaze in 2007, I think,
Yeah.
with an MC named Regal,
Okay.
who's better known to everyone as Iggy Azalea.
Oh,
right?
okay. Wow.
And we recorded her. Well,
Yeah.
they did. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I've got the stems from the session,
Yeah.
and you can hear Yael asking Iggy, or Regal at the time, I think she was
Yeah.
called, why she raps in an American accent. Not in any kind of way, just genuinely curious, you
Yeah.
know? And she just sort of says, oh, look, in my mind, I imagine if I was a rapper, that's how I would sound.
There you go.
And if that's real to her, then, God bless.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
for me, it's just how the music sounds.
Yeah, me as an MC, I think there's putting on an American accent, there's neutralizing your Australian accent, and then there's the Australian accent.
Yeah. And a lot of the Aussie rappers at the time that had this accent, I felt they accentuated that anyway. Because I knew a few of them. I'm not trying to name names, but one of these Aussie rappers was a school teacher, and I knew he didn't get up there at school and be like, you know, like he would have spoken normally,
like
so,
Hauser type. Australian.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So
But again,
is what it is.
that's his choice, and,
It's showbiz,
and it's a sound.
you know,
Yeah, it's a
and
sound.
that's the thing. Like, Be Real puts on his voice when he raps.
Yeah,
You know, because at the time, you know, I like reading articles. One thing I do when I'm bored at airports was read things on the internet. But
Yeah. And you've spent
'cause
some time at airports, bro.
yeah, I think Be Real's. I don't know if it's his cousin. Oh, you know Kid Frost.
Yeah, of course.
I think Kid Frost's brother. I think Sendog is Kid Frost's brother.
Oh wow, I
Something
didn't know that, man.
Something
Yeah.
like that. I think.
Okay,
Maybe Paulie can look it up.
maybe
But when
Paulie can
when
look that up.
when they met Be Real, it was kind of like you're just another rapper. You need to sound different or be different, and
Yeah.
that's when he kind of, from what I remember, you know, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's where he sort of that sound that he has, that more nasally
That
sort of sound.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
insane in the membrane.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
back at the time, every rapper wanted to sound and look different.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I think hip hop had a much more gimmicky kind of side back in the day. There were a lot more like insane clown posse, and there was these kind of things where to stand out, you had to kind of, you know.
Yeah, there was definitely like there was a bit more, what do you call it?
It might come up
Showbiz
there,
in
no?
it.
It's not on there, but we might be able to find it.
What's the other name?
Kid Frost. So if you put Send Dog, brother, Kid Frost, I'm sure we'll find out quite easily. But at the end of the day,
But yeah, so
but it's cool that you bring up Cyprus because maybe not so much with Cyprus, but you got a connection to that LA Originals later on documentary culture through Mr. Cartoon,
Yeah,
and
so-
Esteban Oriol,
yeah.
yeah. And Joker Brand and Soul Assassin. So let's talk a bit about that era now and that connection. And obviously you got a lot of ink.
yeah, well that ties into the Smash Proof story. So
Okay, cool.
a guy named Kirk Harding, shouts to Kirk. He's a Kiwi living and working in America.
Yeah.
He'd been at Loud Records. He became like a big music executive. Worked at Loud, became SRC. So a lot of us, myself, Savage, all the people on this side of the world, when we were getting the Akon drops and the dub plates, that was all through Kirk.
Yeah.
And Kirk was in Australia once, and my first time going to New Zealand was with Kirk to do some stuff with Smash Proof. I'd never
Yeah.
been. They were shooting a video, that's right. And I was just like, I'll fly myself. I want to be in the video. I want to come and just see all this. And when I was going there, I was trying to find a new logo. And I remember seeing the Shady Records logo and liking that and telling Kirk. And Kirk was like, oh, Mr. Cartoon did that. I know him. We're friends.
Wow.
And that's when I looked up, and he had some ink from Cartoon, and that's when I looked up Cartoon stuff, and I was just like, oh, this is crazy. Like, I need to get some tattoos from this guy.
Because for the people that don't know or that haven't seen LA Originals on Netflix, which I totally recommend, man. I remember watching a couple of months back when it came out. Awesome doco. Highly recommend it. For that Chicano LA tattoo.
Yeah, fine line tattoos, they call
Fine
it.
line
Yeah.
tattoo, yeah. But I mean, just the movement, because
Oh,
it
of
all
course,
blends
yeah.
and merges together. So Cartoon is credited as the guy who kind of initiated that now famous Mexican / LA / Vato Loco kind of not the culture, but the art representation of it. With
Yeah, he was definitely doing a lot of that stuff.
yeah.
And then so yeah, one of my trips to LA, I wanted to get a tattoo.
Yeah,
And
which is
the
what we're
Chief
looking at
Rockers
now?
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you might be able to see this is here on the camera.
Uh-huh.
So I just got this one done.
Yeah.
And Kirk put me in touch. And
Cartoon is probably the world's most renowned tattoo artist. I mean, I don't think you can say
as
the
far
best,
as I know, but
yeah.
he'd be definitely be one of them.
Yeah.
And I got the tattoo, and we got to chatting, and he's just like us, like a real guy, very humble.
Yeah.
And we got along well, and I think he actually came to Australia once, and every time I'd go to LA, I'd get a few more tattoos, and he'd
Yeah.
come to Australia, and we'd sort of stay in touch. And I'd tour with Cypress Hill a couple of times. I'd met them. I'd met Muggs.
What was that like, man? Cyprus is nuts.
Yeah, just huge. Like they were just massive. And same thing, super
they're
cool.
Still touring, man.
Yeah, same thing, super cool, super
Non-stop.
professional.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because you can smoke weed and be wild and party, but still be professional.
You got to switch,
you know?
man. It's the switch, hermano. You
So,
got to turn it on. When you got to turn it on, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we all became friends, you know, with Cartoon and Estevan, and we started doing the Joker brand out here with Don Juan.
Yeah. Soul Assassins. Shout out to Donnie, man. Shout out to Dave,
Shout out to DJ Don Juan. And we were selling all the shirts out here. At the time, the dollar was good, so financially it worked.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Yeah, and over the years, I just got more and more tattoos. And he's been out here a couple of times, and he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Really good dude. And that LA Originals was funny because I've been hearing about them doing this for years.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny, like, and Alchemist says a good, he's got a good thing on that when he's talking about at the time, for a long time, maybe before G Unit or one of these things, but or Death Row. He was like, at one period it was like there was only really Soul Assassins, Death Row, and Bad Boy, but like Soul Assassins have always just been there chugging along, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
They carved a niche, man. They got like a very loyal, very strong following. It's like its own culture in its way.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely big on the weed culture. You know, all
most
kinds of
definitely,
people,
yeah.
skaters,
Yeah,
everybody. You know?
they cross a lot into like the white boys and the Latinos, of course.
Everybody.
And rock, a lot of rock and
Yeah.
sort of punk rock people get down to it as well, and that's why you hear a lot of Cypress tracks. I've got that rock thing,
Yeah.
it's
very musical
and all that.
you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they're like
It's their own thing, man.
They're the
You can't
go-to
really,
thing, yeah.
I don't think you can.
And I think you might have still been away, but I
mean,
mean, but you know, me and Don Juan, we would drive. We'd see the Sydney show, or I DJ'd the Sydney show, and then we'd drive the next day to Canberra just to watch the show again.
and
hang
I
out
was
with
away
Mugs.
for that, man. Yeah, I would have
You know,
loved to
yeah.
been around for sure.
But yeah, those guys are legends and did a lot of stuff and did a lot of photos and my tattoos on the. I think I got lucky because obviously a lot of their footage is from years ago. It probably wasn't high res, but they had some super high res photos of my newer ones.
And it's on there. It's on their LA
At the
Originals
start,
documentary,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So if
And
you're
the
watching
same
the
thing-
documentary,
And like we said, well, like I said before, if you got to deal with somebody and something else happens, like Cartoon was just about to tattoo me for the first time, so he didn't know me from squat. And Usher arrived,
yeah. I remember
know?
this story. Yeah,
and I think Usher was totally cool, but
Yeah.
part of me thinks Usher might have expected Cartoon to be like,
yeah, that's
"You
right.
come back tomorrow, Usher's here," you know. But Cartoon would be like, "Sorry, man, my guy Nino's here from Australia in the chair. You'll have
Again,
to
man.
come back," you know. So it's
It's that professionalism,
Yeah.
that seriousness. Yeah, he seems, from what I saw in the documentary, he seems like a very serious, very focused guy.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool, super
Yeah.
humble. And, you know, I had heaps of good times with them. Like, once I was getting tattooed and they were like, American Gangster had just come out and they'd been invited to the red carpet and they forgot. And he's like, "Do you want to come?" And we went, like, just dressed normal. Everyone's in tuxedos and we just sort of walked in shorts
Tracksuits.
and T-shirts and,
Wow.
you know.
Okay, cool. So you've knocked around with a lot of celebrities. We're not going to pretend that you're best friends with all these people. It's like me, you know, I've got photos and
Yes.
and we've hung out and I've shaken hands with all these people and whatever. But they're not your boys. They're not your, you know, whatever. But you definitely have spent a lot of time with celebrities.
Yeah.
More than most, and definitely more than probably any other DJ or slash artist or performer in the country. Best experience and worst experience.
The worst experience was on the first tour I ever did, which Universal got me in 2003, which was Ja Rule and Ashanti. Now, the tour was crazy, my first time doing a national tour, because that's the thing, like a lot of DJs might get a shot playing at a concert in their own city.
In their own city, that's right.
But-
in their own hood, yeah.
But getting up every day, getting the flight, going to the next city,
Nah,
sound
never.
checking,
That's right.
it's a whole new thing, you know?
But that's because you're
Um,
national.
Yeah. Now, this was my first one. This is like 2003.
Yeah.
And at the time, this is pre 50 Cent. So I think 50 Cent might have just started kicking off records, and that beef may have just started,
Yeah.
which I'll get to in a sec. But Ja Rule and Ashanti were like the biggest things in hip
Oh
hop.
man, huge. Yep. All over the world, yeah.
Yeah, Ja Rule had like 50 people with him, like literally, like it was pandemonium. You know, like, Kay, you were gone.
Brother, I think we actually, with De La Familia, we entered the competition to open up for Ja Rule in Sydney. That's a funny little story. And we tore the house down and everyone was going crazy. And when the judges gave it to, I can't remember who it was, some R&B group, like the club went like bananas because we had a good little following and we made sure that all our people were there because to open up for Ja Rule and Ashanti would have been a big
Huge.
thing. And the judges and the reaction was so bad that the judges and the people that promoted the club and whatever said, look, guys, okay, cool, you didn't win, but we're definitely going to book you, how much to play. And I just said 2,500. At the time, we were probably doing $1,000 or 1,200, 1,500, whatever. And I said, 2,500. They go, oh, okay. And they got us back to play for 2.5. But yeah, so I was around for that.
Yeah.
And I did have my own real bad experience with Jar, but please continue, man, with your.
Well, because they had, I just remember they had after parties, and it's funny, man, because with the whole touring thing, I was never one a lot of the times for the after parties because sometimes I'd just be smashed by the time I'd played, done everything, packed up, got ready for the next day. I just didn't have it in me, But with Ja Rule, I remember from memory because cave, you sort of walk in to be the main room, which was the cave bar, and the velvet room. To the right. And off memory, the cave bar might have been the public thing.
Yep.
I think he was just having an orgy.
That's
in the other
exactly what it was. Yeah.
Yep. And they were going wild because, and even for him, it would have probably been one of his first tours. Yeah. Because he sort of blew up in a lot of ways all of a sudden. Yeah. And was suddenly touring the world, and they were young and acting like fools, and it was a good time. But anyway, my worst experience was I was always trying to get drops, and DJs know what I'm talking about. And Ashanti did me a drop, a dope drop. Yep, dope drop.
My guy.
And I was like,
my guy, DJ Nino.
Yeah, like it's really fucking nice. Dope, Yeah. And then what I used to do is I'd get someone to say a drop, like so she might be like, hey, it's Ashanti with my guy, DJ Nino Brown. And then I might be like, cool, can you just say these 4 names? And we'd chop it up so I could get a drop for Samurai or Miss Hennessy. Shouts to Miss Hennessy at the time.
She grinded a long time.
In the scene, we were a couple back then.
Okay.
And,
true. Very true.
We might have broken up at the time, but we were still very cool and I was getting the drops. But I remember Ashanti being like, I was like, so can you say these names, please? And she was just like, no. And she was so like, fuck you with the no. Yeah. It was so full on. I thought she was joking. So I stood there for a second expecting her to giggle and be like, nah, I'm playing. Sure, tell me the names. And she just looked at me and she was just like, I said no. You asked for a drop and I gave you a drop. Fair enough. And then she goes, so leave me now. And she said, this one. And it was like The Simpsons. You know when like Mr. Burns?
That's right.
And I remember being like, fuck me, And look, and it might be the Sicilian side of my dad, but like, I've potentially been a bit of a hothead, but in my mind, I was like, "You fucking bitch, not fuck much you." Can do, but I didn't say shit, and I left. Of course, but she did my drop, and I can't cry. But that was my worst experience. Best experience, man. I've had a lot of good times on tours. Superfest was definitely the most fun tours I had. Yeah, I felt like all the rappers and everyone that was there, they never get to hang out with each other very often, and it was just a good vibe. Built relationships with guys like Sean Paul. We still talk from time to time on the DMs. Whenever Sean Paul gets a song out, he sends it to me and like 3 or 4 other guys, and I see it come out a week or 2 later. So I built some good relationships. Yeah. And I always felt like I knew enough when you were welcome to hang out, and I also felt like I knew when it was the right time to leave.
Yeah, you got to have that. Yeah, you got to have that. But so funny about Superfest. Are you allowed to tell the story about the weed and Sean Paul and his entourage not getting off the plane unless they got their weed?
Oh yeah, so he used to just want to, I mean everyone knows that about that guy, man. But he apparently they used to have to want weed in the car and all kinds of shit. But I remember once a promoter coming to my door and chatting me like, you want some weed? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, let me go see Sean and I'll come back. And I remember he was kind of like this, And he came back later on. He's like, oh, I got some weed for you. I'm like, where did it all go? And he's like, oh man, I opened the door and he was just like, thank you.
Well, I remember being backstage with you 2010, fresh out, no idea about anything in the world. And the smell of weed was intense.
Yeah. Definitely a contact high.
Because it was Sean Paul, Eve, Pitbull.
That's right.
And they were kind of hanging out, vibing together, I remember.
It was all good vibes, man. So that was the most fun I've had. Yeah. And on the Superfest ones, I used to hit some of the after parties. Yeah. And I never used to, like, it's funny because a lot of guys, everyone's trying to make money, but the after parties is where a lot of the DJs for the artists sort of make their money. Indeed. And I used to actually like just chilling at the after party, enjoying myself. But I definitely say the Eminem tour last year, that was probably the best one. And it was funny because, and I've got to explain this, so it's going to sound weird, but I'll explain. In some ways, there was no fun, but it was the most fun. And what I mean by that is, it was super professional backstage. Like,
That's
I
right.
mean, like, you couldn't have planned it any more professional, you know? And even with Superfest, like, sometimes there'd be issues with money and things like that. The money would always come, but might have to wait for this, wait for that.
looser.
A lot looser, you know? But Eminem was like... And the only thing with the Eminem, the story there is I got tentatively booked about 6 months earlier. Actually, before we get to that, it's funny. Eminem was here in like 2015 or 2014. And it was between me and a guy named M Phases to play. And M Phases is a producer from Melbourne.
Yep.
And he'd done a record with Eminem. So they were like, oh, cool, let's get him. And I was mad dirty at the time.
Yeah.
Not with M Phases, because God bless, do your thing. But I was just like, fuck,
Yeah,
I need this.
disappointed,
And like, I'd opened up for Nas and Damian Marley and Jay-Z. So it's like, if I do Jay-Z, Nas, and Eminem, they're kind of like the greats, you know?
Yeah.
And Eminem doesn't tour very often. So I thought, well, fuck, he may not come back for 10 years.
Yeah.
DJ Nino Brown may not be the right guy then. And, you know, like, as much as we all like to think we're the guy, you've got to be the guy to be the guy. I may not be that guy in 10 years. So when he came back this time and they asked me to do it, I was fucking over the moon. But then we just didn't hear back. And I only actually properly got confirmed the day before the tour started. They were ringing me saying, please keep the dates free, because Eminem and Paul Rosenberg apparently have to authorize everything personally. So now I can go around being like, you know, I got picked by Eminem and Paul Rosenberg. But it was kind of stressful and I was really wanted to do it, but it was great. They're like, yep, green light, done. Here's the money in the account, boom. And within like 2 hours, the entire thing was booked, hotels, flights, big machine, you know, everything just got done.
How many cities?
Just the regulars, like would have been Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, 4 cities. And, you know, I had to get my songs approved.
Yeah.
And it's funny, not in any crazy way. They just wanted to know what I was going to play in general.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Quality control type thing.
Yeah. And fair enough, you know, Eminem's the biggest artist in the world, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, backstage, it was cool. Everything was very tight. Security was tight. You know, there was definitely no fucking around. There was no women backstage.
Cameras?
There was no... You could have your own stuff, but you couldn't... You know, when Eminem was around, there was no cameras, you know?
Yeah.
He had the big people moving guards. He had the fucking Navy SEAL kind of guys. Like, he had everything. It was fucking cool, but professional. Like, it was fun, not in, like, fucking drinking and, but it was fun, you know?
Yeah.
And
just to be a part of such a monumental,
it was
historical
fucking amazing.
thing.
And they gave us, like, North Face duffel bags with the thing embroidered on the Eminem tour.
Wow.
Like, it was really cool.
And then also it wasn't it because it sold some crazy amount of tickets, right?
Yeah. So I got to shout out the Hilltop Hoods. So I never got a dressing room on this tour,
On Eminem.
right? But I used to use their room, and their rooms were massive, you know.
Yeah.
And more alcohol than we could drink. So we were partying in their room. And that was super cool. And yeah, it sold out
Some
super quick.
record breaking.
Yeah, apparently in Melbourne at the MCG, the biggest concert for a long time was Madonna.
Yeah.
And then I think that got beaten by a bushfire appeal concert. And then now Eminem has the record. I think it was either 83,000 or 87,000. It was 80 something thousand. They were saying it was the biggest concert in the Southern Hemisphere of all time. Which I feel, I don't know if that's right, because I feel like in South America they've got things. But what it might be is it might be in like a concert venue where South
maybe
America,
a stadium. Maybe.
Yeah,
Or,
they have because
maybe.
they have those things with hundreds of thousands of people, but they're sort of outdoors, right?
Yeah, but Maracanã Stadium in Brazil, still the biggest stadium in the world, holds 200,000 people. So look, I don't know, but sometimes over this side of the world, we kind of make those claims. Oh, the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes, exactly.
Just because it sounds really big, but
I mean, I'm going to say it to everybody. If it helps me out.
No, you can have it, man. I'm not trying to take it off you.
But that was cool. And the funny thing was it was an interesting experience. Like, you know, Royce the 5'9" was on there. He's a beast. But he went on before Hilltop Hoods. You know?
Yeah. Hilltop Hoods. Again, another great segue. Because that's something very current that you've done, which was also massive.
Yep.
And for me personally, Hilltop Hoods, when it comes to Australian hip hop, are the best. I think they've kind of not only is it quite obvious because of all their successes, but I think also from from the music standpoint,
100%.
they've definitely hit the nail on the head with because it feels Australian, but it also is a quality international level. Let's call it
It's
hip hop
and it's the songwriting.
sound.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I remember, like obviously we all knew Hilltop Hoods were the guys. They were the biggest, you know.
Yeah.
But then on that Eminem tour, seeing them perform live,
Yeah.
like it's like they were an Aussie pub band, but
Yep.
but hip hop. They rap and they have a DJ, you
Yeah.
know. But they've got a lot of live musical elements. But
Uh-huh.
the quality of songs is not. It's sort of beyond hip hop, and it's stuff I've tried to incorporate into my own production, where you know the choruses, like everything is just perfect.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of time is spent, a lot of effort is spent.
And again, full credit to them because Hilltop is Hilltop. Like, there's
Yeah.
no, they kind of sound like,
Yeah,
they're
no.
just their own thing.
Yeah.
And you got to give them respect for that. And then the Hilltop, so as far as Australian acts tours, because you did the Hilltop Hoods tour.
Yeah, so same
After-
thing. I had relationships, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I tore it down before Hilltop Hoods.
Yeah.
Because after Hilltop Hoods and before Eminem, there was nothing because they had to do a big stage.
Yeah. Configuration.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my last set. So I went and I'd walk out to the crowd, be like, who wants to see Hilltop Hoods? And I did all that sort of stuff. But watching them live was crazy. And then they had their tour later in the year, and they're like, do you want to come back? Same thing. They would have sold out that tour whether they had me DJing or a CD playing.
That's right.
But they still, same thing, pay you properly, treat you like gold,
Yeah.
you know, have
Respect.
my own dressing room. Shout to Hilltop Hoods.
Shout out to the Hilltop
And,
Hoods, man. I love them, and I'm a big fan.
And from what I understand, that was definitely by far the biggest Australian hip hop tour.
Ah,
They
for
sold
sure.
out everywhere.
Yeah.
And they were clever. Like they booked Saturday nights in each city, which left the Fridays open, and then they sold out super quick, and then they started doing the Friday nights, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I think we did 2 shows in every city
Wow.
except for Adelaide and Sydney. And in Sydney, I remember trying to get some free tickets for friends and stuff. And they're like, oh, we can't get them for you, you know. And it was, I mean, that was super generous. It was like, we've sold every conceivable seat in this place. And wherever it was, ANZ or one of those places, I think it can do like 17 or 18,000. Whatever it was, because, you know, whatever they can do, because they stop it at some point, because they want
course.
people to be able to see well. But
Can't be sitting behind the stage, yeah.
they pushed it to the max, you know. And
Oh, good on them,
crazy,
man.
dope
Deserved.
show.
Well deserved.
The pyrotechnics, like, you know,
And cool people too, yeah. Like,
very
yeah,
cool, very
yeah,
cool. You know,
They're from Adelaide, right?
they're from Adelaide.
Yeah. Well, you expect that, I guess. I mean, I'm not taking away anything from any city, but normally the smaller the city, the smaller the town, kind of people are a bit more chilled and laid back. Yeah.
So that was super cool, and that was a lot of fun. And it was funny because, you know, I'm used to sort of hustling all the time. I remember the first shows were in Melbourne, and I'd finish and race out the door and go play at a club or go do something else, you know, try and double up on the money.
Yeah.
And I realized at the end of the night, they were doing these photos with everyone on stage. So I realized, like, I've got to stay till the end of this concert. And I really got to experience the concert. And they're amazing, man.
Well,
and they did that tour worldwide. They went off into Europe after that.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So they did Australia first for 6
Wow.
weeks. And then they went to Europe and you know, they sell shows everywhere, Germany and all
good on
kinds of
them, man.
places.
Full power, full respect to them, man. Hilltop, because again, you know, unique sound, not copying anyone, doing anything.
Yeah.
Well done to the boys. But we do this thing with the photos on all of our shows, and Paulie works extremely hard overtime to source all these images to give us something to talk about on the show. But we'll probably take it all the way back. So right now we're staring at the ground, but I don't want to play that just yet because real quick, I got out of jail in 2010. I've done 7 years. Don't know my left foot from my right foot. Got no idea what the hell is going on. And Nino Brown, the brother whom we became real close whilst we were. Well, there's a photo from that. That's at Long Bay. There's Brown, a little heavier Brown. That's a big Brown.
Big Brown.
102,
103, the Soul Assassins t-shirt.
Yeah, 103. Shout out to Gray. Shout out to Linda. And our boy DJ Don Juan. El Doni.
Yeah.
Doni. Wearing his LRG. Probably got that from
Freddie.
Yeah, from Freddie. Shouts to Freddie. He's back around somewhere. Yeah, man. Thanks for all that love and that support during those times, man. So anyway, so I got out. And Brown's very kind to show me the ropes, to show me around, and we started training together and all these things. and because you've always been that's the one thing. I was going to mention before. I find you to be a connector. So you're the kind of person that if you know that someone over there is looking for someone over here, and they don't know each other, but you know that both those people, you're very likely to make that happen, which is unfortunately not very common, particularly I find in this country versus people from other parts of the world, like the Americans. I think the Americans, we talk a lot of shit about the Americans in general, but they're connectors. It's almost like they breed success, and they want to be a part of that success. Of course, if there's money to be made, they want that money, but they've got this thing about, oh yeah, man, I've got to introduce you to my guy, to my cousin, you get what I'm saying?
I think a lot of that comes from people being secure with themselves.
100%. Insecurity, man, it's a motherfucker. And unfortunately, I think it's rampant, not only in our society, but just society around the world. But anyway, I digress. We'll go back to the video, please, Paul, if you can pull it up. Because this is Brown. It's nothing major, but I thought we'll share it because I want to lead into something else about your weight and about how far you've come. But this is Brown rocking up in his Audi.
It's a cool car.
Say something real quick. Rafa cam.
Those were Rafa cam days. That's it. Not much.
You see how clean the car was? My car was always clean.
Do you remember that time I washed your car?
Did you?
Yeah.
For real?
You don't recall, but I do because Brown lent me the car for a few days when you used to go away on the weekends, and I said, "No, I got to wash it for the brother. It's just as a whatever, give and take." And I washed the car, and I thought I'd done an amazing job. And then you went and picked it up, and after it had dried up or something, there was like a huge streak of like dirt on the side.
Oh, really?
It looked like the Nike sign on the side of the car. But anyway, we've got some pics, man, and usually we just invite our guests to talk about it a little bit.
That one was Superfest in Perth.
You
got the Joker T-shirt. But yeah, that was a good time.
2010.
I think,
Yeah, 2010, yeah. So first one, right?
Yes, because maybe the second one, because Akon's DJ, Benny D, they brought him back out to DJ as well.
Only
and
Benny
I think
D.
that was his laptop because my one's on the other side.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, it's funny, man. All the DJs want to talk nerdy shit, like to the SP404. That was the sampler which had all my sound effects. I've always been into the sound effects, man. I thought they were cool. And shouts to Charlie Fox. Like Charlie Fox going to put me on the air horn because he was like, "You got to start your mix with some sort of sound or something."
Wow, really?
Yeah, he was like the ABC, the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
He goes, "It doesn't matter what it is, as long as
Iconic.
it's the same one."
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was just on a breakbeat record, the air horn sound. So I used to start them with that. And then at the time, now Samurai and I both loved these toys,
Yeah.
And shouts to Tickles, because I remember once I had this big thing, it was called Instant Replay Machine. I remember going on after Tickles, and I fucking bumped the shit out of the poor bastard one day. And he was so nice about it. Like, because, Tickles, he's a real happy, fucking cheerful,
Quite
smiley, happy motherfucker.
Yeah.
Come on, Tickles. I met your dad smiles.
Hey, you did too. It was family barbecue that day. That's right.
But I remember once I bumped Tickles, man, I was so embarrassed, man.
Yeah.
Tickles is a good dude. But anyway, me and Sam, we used to like our little toys with the sound effects. So you needed that. I used to plug that into the mixer and run my sound effects like that. And what was cool with Superfest, because Serato was new-ish, if Serato crashed, I used to have a couple of songs on there, so I could play a song and restart my computer.
Smart man. No tall DJs out there. Have your USBs ready in case the
man, you need something because it's gonna
crashes.
Yeah, someone throws a bottle of water.
Yep.
Something happens. But yeah, that was a good day, man. It's a good day.
What else you got there, Paulie? That we can try.
That was at one of my son's birthday parties, trying to enjoy a piece of cake, and Raf was probably like, there's sugar in that,
Yeah. Okay. Look, two things I want to point out here. All right. So obviously my face, brown. That's gone straight to your big belly.
Yeah.
But two, look at Brown's face. Look at the dedication in that face.
Man. I was not going to let any of that hit the deck. Shouts to Mezzapica, the best Italian cakes. That's the next one.
Gordo Chancho. I'll go back, man.
Shouts to Paulie.
Shouts to Paulie. He's Paulie's moment. Give yourself a clap, Paulie. You deserve one, brother. Definitely. Look at Paulie, You've come a long way, Paulie B.
Thank you, senor.
I'm looking at the photo on the top left, Paul with the red hat on, but
Yeah, I'll
let's
tell you a
keep
funny
moving.
story. No. Stay where you are. We want to give you as much for everybody at home because no one gets to see Paulie. Everyone just, they can hear him. Go on, Paulie, say something. My brother.
There's a reason for that, Rafa.
They're good. No, don't say that, man. That's not true. But anyway, so now you can meet Paulie properly. But I want to tell you a funny story. So Paulie, I met him at Tequila out in Liverpool, right, Paulie?
Yeah.
And the first conversation that I recall with you, because I used to say, DJ Don Juan on the ones and twos, Tickles on the ones and twos, and you came up and asked me that, right? Rafa, what's the ones and twos? And I was like, the ones and twos, and you were like, oh. Anyway, there you go. But yeah, man. So show us something else there, Paulie. We've got a couple of shots. Oh, I want to see that one with Rihanna because we mentioned Rihanna before. Man, you're quick on the trigger there, bro. What's going on? You have your pre-workout or something, mate? 9 o'clock at night.
Another one.
All right, relax.
Well, this is a good one. So I remember this. This was when Raf took me to. We're at Hooters for some model thing.
Yeah. Shout out to Sid, man. He's going to be on the podcast very soon, man. Yeah. Hooters,
and I
Miss Hooters, yeah, in Parramatta.
and yeah, that's my thing. Like I'm a lot better shape now than I used to be. But if I have a couple of drinks,
That's right.
the
Fat
Coronas
Brown
bring out
comes
the fat boy inside you.
Now, I just want to point one thing out, though. This is not my post or my photo. This is your photo. Where'd you get it from? Huh? No, because anyone would think this is me setting him up. Oh, yeah,
No,
whatever.
this is a text. This is a screenshot.
No, yeah, but I didn't shoot it and
It's
put it.
Nino
Oh, did I
Brown.
post this?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
posted it.
I don't
you
even
posted
remember.
This. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Badly embarrassed. But well, man, definitely want to talk about your achievements on the physical side as well, man. But we'll go to the next one.
You guys
Paulie.
say your lines?
Yes. Coronas bring out the fat boy inside you, Brown.
I was like, badly, I'm embarrassed, but the model inside me puked it out.
Oh man. Oh, here we go. He's quick on the draw again. This guy. We're probably going to finish with this, but I mean, this is Brown 2020 post-COVID.
Yeah.
I've been watching your progress very closely because obviously I know I had a part to play in that when I got out and we were hitting the gym together and I was trying to give you as much of my knowledge and you took knowledge and everything from lots of people, nutrition and training and everything, but I was actually super impressed when I saw these images because I've been seeing you over the weeks and months and years, but particularly in the last few months, and I think we can credit the sort of patterns that you've been able to establish due to COVID and not playing and having all these late nights and everything.
Yes.
Because we are unemployed. Scott
Yeah,
Morrison.
man. Not having money for food is it's the bright side.
That's right. Nah, but you're looking good, Brown. Now, for real, man. Respect. Much
Thank you.
respect.
Thank you.
Next one. Okay, we've seen that one. Yeah, tat. Oh.
I don't know what that one's about, but
Yeah.
I'm not Santa, but you can still sit on my lap. It's just, I'm a very funny guy.
And you're wearing rubber gloves. Ready for a big session.
I don't think I'm wearing rubber gloves.
What is that?
I think it's just my hand looks funny with
It's the
with
flash.
light,
It's the flash. Okay, that's
We'll
iPhone.
just say it's that, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. You got out of that one. Next one. Star Wars fan. Actually, man, you and Paulie probably have a lot more in common than you think, because
Nino.
I saw the X-wing. Very cool.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, Nino, we're keeping you up, are we? There's another drink there on the side for you.
Paulie's a bit of a movie buff and geek as well. But you're a Predator man.
I like sci-fi. I like the Predator. I like Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
What about those last couple Predator movies that came out, man?
did you see the latest one with the guy and the big one on the roids?
Is it like almost like trying to be funny one? Is that the one? Man, I watched one, and I'm a Predator fan. Dude, there's one that's so fucking bad, and I'm gonna try and find
Is
out.
that the
which
one with
it
the
was.
kid?
With the little kid, the autistic
I
kid.
think is the kid, yeah. And
the one his DNA.
And they got those like dog ones.
Oh yeah.
Man, please, what the hell was that?
I don't mind it. I thought. I mean, look.
Get
You know
the
what?
fuck
I've got
outta here.
my thing. This is with movies in general. Sometimes like you know, you can't always make a masterpiece, right? And sometimes I think to
But
myself,
come
you know what?
on,
If I was
man.
entertained, but it was cool. It was cool. It
I
had
would
its
have told
things.
them all to stay home.
Yeah.
Did you like The Mandalorian?
Yeah, Mandalorian's dope. I like Mandalorian.
I haven't seen it.
End of October, the next lot comes out.
Yeah, you haven't watched Mandalorian yet?
No.
You got Disney?
No.
I'll give you my login.
All right.
It's
cool,
it's
man.
actually really cool.
Thank you. Is
It's
that legal?
against
or-
the corporation, so no.
What do you mean? I got a family pass? Shut the fuck up.
Ice Cube, baby.
So Ice Cube, man,
Yeah.
very cool. Obviously a legend.
Yeah.
Um,
Summer Beats? No,
no, that was Superfest.
Superfest 2, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
He was there with his son too, wasn't he? That
his
year?
son,
Yeah.
both his sons. He got two
Yeah.
sons.
I was hanging out with you that year as well.
His hype man is WC
Yeah.
from
West Side Connect.
that's right.
Mhm.
Who I think is dope.
Yeah.
The DJ's DJ Crazy Tunes. He died about a year later. He's
Oh,
WC's brother. I think he
Okay.
had a heart attack or
Oh,
something.
wow.
But yeah, man, Ice Cube, you know,
Yeah.
legendary.
I remember him being cool, and as a matter of fact, I think most of the old school guys tend to be a lot more relaxed about the whole fame and not shaking your hand and thing. I just find them to be a little bit more sort of approachable and down to earth.
Yeah, and they know it's the same thing. It's part of the job.
Yeah,
You know, these guys like, you know, Fat Man Scoop's a perfect example. You know, shouts to Fat Man Scoop, like
machine,
always working, right?
beast.
But if you think about it, obviously, Be Faithful is his biggest success.
Man,
the
I've
first one, right?
Never seen a crowd react
Right.
like I saw Be Faithful in that concert in in Winter Beats.
Yeah,
Man, the stadium erupted.
yeah. But that technically is like 26, 27 years old.
Oh man,
Right?
yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff since, and he's
Yeah.
the voice of the club, undisputed. He's like the guy.
The hype man,
But if you
yeah.
think about it, it's riding a wave.
Yep.
You know, even though he consistently works,
Yep,
but that was the big thing. But
That's
him
right.
being cool, being professional,
that's right.
excuse me, doing an
That's
amazing
right.
show, everything.
Networks.
It's the same as Ice Cube, you know?
Yeah.
Like Ice Cube still puts out music.
Yeah,
I can't tell you the name of any song off his Laugh Now, Cry Later album, which is
Yeah.
But the first few albums,
yeah, that's right.
classics, you know.
Of course.
So
Yeah, man. 100%.
he's cool, man.
Nah, respect. What else we got there, Paulie? Oh.
Snoops, that was my first time opening up a concert, actually.
Uh-huh.
That was in 98.
Uh-huh.
And Enmore Theatre.
Wow. Snoop.
DJ Dexter, I think,
Yeah.
was doing the actual whole tour.
Yeah.
And I think they added a second show.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it.
Uh-huh.
And then I got an invite. And at the time, it was not too long after. I know Tupac was killed,
Yeah.
and maybe Biggie.
Yep, that's right. 98, yeah. 96, 97, but they went. Yeah.
So when he was traveling, he had like I think he had like federal police, like he had armed people with him.
Wow.
And I remember his wife being pregnant, and it's
Okay.
funny because, you know, now you see them on TV and these kids are teenagers. You know?
Ah, okay, yeah.
And I remember Snoop just being so high, like he always is, but you can see in
Yeah.
the photo.
Yeah.
I kind of grabbed him. I was like, I want to get a photo, and he was just sort of like floating
Yeah.
around high. And I've kind of grabbed. That's why he's looking. I've kind of grabbed him and going, take a photo.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
What's
when I
happening
look at
with
this.
your face part?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't even see Snoop in this photo. I see your big head, man.
yeah, man, it was just a bad angle, bad shadow.
Bad angle. Make sure you got a good angle for the show, Paulie, please.
I should get that airbrushed actually, because look, you can sort of see the side of my head, but like that shadow makes it look like I've got like half an afro.
Yeah.
Now Rihanna, that was a good story. So it's an interesting DJ story. So
Yeah.
that was some event that Rihanna was here for,
Uh-huh.
that Universal were doing.
Okay, like a meet and greet or a record launch or something.
Some shit. I don't even
wasn't
remember what it
performing.
was. No,
Was it for Battleship or?
I don't even know
Random.
what it was. But I do remember hearing that there was going to be some event that Rihanna was going to be at,
Yeah.
and saying to my contact Universal, like, I want a fucking DJ.
Yeah.
And they would kind of be like, oh, you know, Paulie from the tech department's DJing. And I was
Ah.
like, fuck Paulie.
Yeah.
I've got a fucking album out with you guys.
Yeah.
A DJ fucking mix.
I deserve
I need
this.
to be, not even I
Yeah.
deserve it. I need to be there. I need
Yeah.
to get a photo of Rihanna for the next album. We need to do something.
Yeah, you played it, yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
they were kind of like, oh. And the same thing, sometimes I didn't want to pay somebody or whatever.
Mm.
But I ended up playing, and it was cool because I played all of the music everyone wanted, but I played a lot of her older stuff, which was more sort of dance hall-ish.
Yeah, Caribbean.
And she was there with her, with some of her girlfriends, I think,
And they
and
were
they
going
loved
crazy.
it,
Yeah,
So
of
like
course,
even though
yeah.
you can see by the photo, like she was cool to take that photo because she's being
Yeah.
animated. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. She
Snoop
was
was
having a
looking
good
at me
time.
like, motherfucker, don't grab
Yeah,
on me,
yeah,
but she
yeah,
was happy,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
so that was a good time.
And she's kind of tall, right? You were telling me. I think.
Yeah, I've got a photo with her and Samurai from when she first came to Australia.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's taller than us. Like she was kind of being nice to me.
Oh, okay. There you go. Rihanna's kind of tall. She's awesome, man. Rihanna's incredible.
Amazing.
Talent. The fashion on display. Another one.
Shouts to DJ Khaled, man. He's got a great selection of slides.
All right.
Everyone makes fun of DJ Khaled, man, but Khaled's the man.
Yeah. I don't have much to say because I don't know the guy too much. I mean, but yeah. Go back, man. Go back, Paulie. That's Pogo, right?
DJ Pogo from London.
Yeah.
Great friend of mine.
Chief
Lives in
Rockers.
Brazil now. Yeah. And, he helped me a lot, even on the business level. He was very organized. I
Shouts to
learned a lot
DJ
from him.
Pogo,
Shouts to
man.
Pogo.
Yeah.
And
Because you guys got a crew, Chief Rockers, the
Yes.
DJs. Who's in the Chief Rockers?
nowadays, like, myself, Mo, Mix King,
Yeah.
Kimani, Nike, Just One, S-Man from Perth.
Wow.
And
It's grown.
when we first started, it was like, DJ Pogo was involved. We had Shorty Blitz from the UK.
Shorty
We're
Blitz.
kind of doing an international thing.
Yeah.
We didn't, not that it didn't work out, but everyone didn't. We weren't traveling like we thought we would
Yeah,
be. You know?
yeah.
But I spoke to Pogo when COVID first started, actually.
Yeah.
And same thing, finger on the pulse. Who's asked me about 1-4. Like he'd heard about 1-4
Okay.
in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
tuned in.
man. But yeah, great guy.
Next one, Paulie. Yep, there's the man.
Pitbull.
Yep.
Doesn't wax the inside of his chest. It waxes the exterior sides.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, what you looking at, mate?
But that was funny, man, because I didn't realize how little he was in real life.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he looks much skinnier in real life. I remember
Yeah.
thinking to myself, this guy looks like my granddad. Like that.
Yeah.
But he
Well,
was super, super cool, man.
super cool.
And definitely probably the biggest star on the planet at the time.
Yes.
Yes,
man. No doubt about it. Yeah. I was there with you that day, and I was blown away about how cool he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. How down to earth and how cool he was, man. Yeah, definitely. Brown, 2010, I'll get out, and you're 103. Did you say?
Something like that, yeah.
So, obesity. Let's face it.
Yeah, I was a fat fuck.
Yeah.
I got down to about 95
Yeah.
by middle of 2010.
Cool. Yeah. I remember that. I remember the weight sliding off and everything. But then, since then, you've just been on the path of where it's not like a diet. It's a lifestyle.
It's just getting healthier.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. And you're tweaking and you're tweaking.
And it was mostly food for me, to be honest, because at a point, what do they say? You can't out-exercise a bad diet, or there's some saying like that.
I haven't heard it, brother.
It's something like that, though. Like you can't
Yeah.
I think if you're young and you're in shape, you might be able to sort of eat what you want, but technically you're obviously burning the calories, otherwise you'd gain weight. You know what I mean? But I sort of got down to, I was at about 95 in 2010, and then over the next 5 years I probably got it down. I sort of stayed in the early 90s, 92-ish, and then I sort of cracked 90 a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And then, but with, I was sitting around 88, but I could float up to 90-ish,
Yeah.
And then with COVID, I was probably around the 85-ish mark pre-COVID or 86-ish. So I definitely smashed 5, 6, 7 kilos during COVID.
Yeah.
And that was like, and shouts to all the other DJs, entertainers, and everybody, but it was all of a sudden, we just had no jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could focus.
Well, there was that, but there was a bit of stress as well, And for me in particular, I was about to hit a big tour. Because I do tour a lot, my income comes in sort of chunks during the year. So you sort of, you dip into the reserves, then you replenish. And I was about to start replenishing and everything stops.
Yeah.
So the first couple of weeks, sort of not knowing what was going to happen, I didn't really eat anything till 1 o'clock. I'd be drinking coffee, very grumpy. And
Tell me about
I
it.
fell into the pattern, I guess, of intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And I'm not a believer in intermittent fasting in the sense, because I've had friends tell me, oh, if you intermittent fast, you can eat whatever you want when you break your fast, which is the same thing. It's not really true.
Yeah.
If you eat 10,000 calories in 15 minutes, you're still fucked. But what it meant for me was I essentially ate one meal less.
Yeah.
So my 1,500 calories of food became 1,100 calories of food. And that
Instantly,
sudden deficit.
That's right.
And then there are benefits, and you and I have spoken about this off air,
Yeah.
but the fasting does X, Y, Z. So there
That's
are
right,
those
that's right.
benefits.
Beyond the weight loss. Yeah.
Plus eating less.
Yep.
And I was still drinking. Like, I've been drinking more during COVID. I have 3 shots of Jack a day.
Really?
Yeah, religiously.
For
Personal pleasure.
during the evenings or?
Oh, just at night,
Yeah.
just to sort of wind down.
Yeah, nightcaps. Yeah.
I mean, 5 p.m.
Yeah.
First one.
Uh-huh.
And that's just to wind down,
Yeah. You're using
And
it, man. I there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I was thinking the other day, like, because sometimes, especially if you're creative, sometimes you lay awake at night with your thoughts,
Yes.
and so I think
And that's where the couple of drinks.
Yeah, I think
Just
it sort
to
of switches that off.
Yeah,
the
noise and all that.
Yeah.
You can just chill. But I think also, obviously, touring all the time, sleeping patterns are out. You're on the road. It's harder to get that good food whenever you want it.
100%.
So, yeah.
I think for me, I think consistently eating at home
Of course.
did it, right?
Yeah.
Made it easier.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, I'm drinking more now, but it was just consistently eating at home.
Yeah.
And before, even when you're eating on the road, you're trying to eat healthy. And if you're a touring entertainer and Paulie brings you to play at his club and they have a menu and like, hey, dinner's on us, pick what you want from the menu. You might pick the healthiest option, but it still may not be.
No.
Still might be a burger and fries and
the late nights too, Brown, because you haven't had proper late nights like you would have.
yeah.
And that has
there's
a huge impact,
it does.
physiological impact.
It
yeah.
does. And look, I was definitely the guy where, I like to get home just to be home. Excuse me.
That's
And
that Coke, man.
yeah, I would do things like, and it's funny because I'll sleep for 30 minutes literally. So if I got to a hotel and I got to bed at 4 and I had to wake up at 5, I'd put my pajamas on and I would sleep for an hour, like solidly.
Yeah.
But I'm that guy. I'd fly out early and
Get home as quick as possible.
all that stuff. Yeah. So it's definitely helped, like the routine, and also like the stress. Working out does make you feel good. Like during COVID, I've now hit a point where I actually enjoy my workouts.
Yeah.
Which I've never enjoyed my workout for the last 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, you got that roll on. I think when you reach that frequency and that intensity and that kind of gym fitness thing, all combined together, that strength, and you just get on a roll.
And if anything, I'm mad at myself. I wish I did it. Like I said, I'm 45, and it's interesting because just touching on the age thing in hip hop, in some ways it's a young man's game. In some ways it's not. I feel like if you become a legend, then it can be timeless.
Yeah,
but Dr. Dre, mid-50s, no one cares. It's Dr. Dre.
Yeah,
DJ Jazzy Jeff, Kid Capri, all that. So I've been lucky. I don't think you could start at 45.
Yeah.
But I've hit that point now, and as long as you stay relevant, and being fit was part of that, because I thought if you look good at 45, like Dr. Dre at 55, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, man. But I mean, also beyond hip hop, just our generation is probably the first generation to have full kind of access to the breadth of nutrition and fitness and the cutting edge of all those things. Where whereas before, previous generations at 40 would be like, okay, cool, get ready for falling off the cliff. Nowadays, the quality of life is being extended, and guys are still looking and feeling amazing, and we've got all these supplements. A lot of people hitting hormones as well, of course. But so cheers to salute to you for embarking on this journey, because not only will this extend your career, I would confidently say, but also your life, brother.
Of course, and that's the thing.
You've given yourself an extra 10, 20 years of life, and quality life.
And you're building, I want to build, gracias, I want to build the body that I can retire in and enjoy my retirement, But
You retiring? I don't think so, bro.
But you know what I'm trying to say, like,
I know what you're saying.
I mean, I've got, my parents are 75, but they take the plane, they fly to Sydney. They won't let me pick them up at the airport. They like to take the train.
Independent,
But there are some people I know that are 60 and very obese and can't do that. Of
course.
So it's being fit. And it's funny because I used to be this big fat fuck, but my whole family were actually super fit. My mother now, she rang me yesterday complaining about the loud music at her gym. Like, she works out every day.
Wow.
She swims almost a kilometer or something. Like, she does crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go
like
mama.
6-pack, like 75 years old,
75. Wow.
Yeah.
Good on her, man. Congrats.
Always been fit.
How
always
old is your old man?
Same, 75.
He's looking good too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think, doing what you love makes it good. But me getting into that was a conscious choice because I'd seen other friends that were out of shape and that just don't look as good. And I hate to say it out loud, but you look at Dr. Dre,
Yeah.
and you look at DJ Yella,
Yeah.
and there was just such a.
That's right.
Now, obviously, Dr. Dre is a billionaire, literally, supplements, chefs, all these things, but still has to do the work.
Still has to do the work, man. And if
Yeah.
anything, people that are sitting on that money, on that kind of activity and everything, like they have no time, no energy, no headspace to achieve all those fitness and whatever goals. So what I'm saying is doesn't necessarily equate to just because you got a lot of money. Most of the people I know that have money, serious money, are a lot more miserable than you think.
Of
and
course.
they have no time.
Yeah.
You know. They
So
have
I've
no
just
time.
accepted as like people like yourself know, it's part of your life. You have to do it.
It's a lifestyle, and that's what I alluded to before.
Like when I'm away holiday anywhere, like I always work out.
That's it, man. Same, yeah. I hear you, man. Another big thing for me with this show, I think why I wanted to always try and speak to people, inspirational people, people that have achieved what they have achieved, is for us to share with all of the aspiring, whatever they may be. Entrepreneurs, DJs, MCs, singers, actors, whatever. One of the things, and we've touched on it through the show, is that you've constantly willing to reinvent yourself and to change and to adapt. Yeah. And I know that along the way, and there might be small things like even like the Jiffy logos and things on your Instagram, but all of these things. Yeah. So it's the Giphy or Jiffy?
I think they're called GIFs. Yeah.
It's a debate.
But yeah, no, they're called GIFs.
Okay. Paulie, it's a GIF. Thank you.
And look, my whole thing with that is because sometimes people used to say things to me like, "You're so good at marketing yourself," and in my mind I'd be like, I've never thought of it like that. Like if I make this mixtape, I put my heart and soul into this, and like back in the day, myself, Moto, Guns, Tickle, Samurai, when we were all doing mixtapes, aside from selling them and making a little money,
it had to be the best.
I wanted. Like one time, Guns texted me like, "I just listened to your new CD. It's fucking incredible," and that was all I want. You know what I'm saying? Like that was what you wanted,
Respect, man.
and vice versa,
respect. Yeah.
And like you wanted it to be good. So if I make something, it's like if I make a fucking cake, I want you to taste it to be like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So why would you make it and not tell people about it? Like it makes no fucking sense.
It's passion, man. Passion.
And even with
proud
and with the gifts, it was the same thing. Like I always want to be the best I can be and be the first to do things.
Yeah, innovate. And
I remember saying, fuck, these gift things are there. I want to do that. I want a fucking Happy New Year gift.
Yeah.
I got the gifts came out last year.
Okay.
And I actually tried to get them out in 2018 before New Year's Eve because I did a massive New Year's Eve thing at Barangaroo.
Yeah, Barangaroo.
And I wanted them for that. And they were just a hassle to get done, which I won't tell anyone the secrets because the shit's on Google, motherfuckers. That's how I worked it out. But it was a pain, and it took us about 6 months to work out how to do, long story short. And then we got them up. And then even then, the first ones were the sort of cartoony ones from logos that we had.
Yeah.
And then I saw people doing those sort of animated video ones, and shouts to Mix King. He filmed me and we did them, and they were like expensive and hard to make. It took a while, but same thing.
Nelson too, right?
Yeah,
Nelson's part of the team.
Nelson does all my social media. Shout out to Variant Collective.
Yeah, shouts to Nelson in Melbourne, man. I hope everyone's okay down there in Melbourne. Tough times.
21 minutes past 9 p.m. So I hope he's at home. But yeah, we put all that together, and it was cool. But just wanting to do, and this is the thing, wanting to do cool shit. Like for me, DJs like DJ Cash Money, and Jazzy Jeff and guys like that. They were just so fucking cool. Like, and I always wanted to be the DJ, like, you know, and do cool shit sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a tax deduction, so. Shouts to Pazinga.
Our man Vince.
But yeah, so yeah, all that sort of stuff. Like, and it's funny, I do those things, you know, because I love to do them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And,
and you also love Babylon's, our Babylon sessions, steam room.
Babylon's, the
sauna,
steam room, the cold
massage.
pool.
Yep. No reach arounds.
Reach around something different. You're thinking of rub and tug.
No, well, you know, I didn't want to say rub and tug, but now that you said it, yeah, none of that either. But we've got the sauna ready whenever you want to come down in La Finca. I mean, you know, you're welcome.
100%, man. 100%.
Now that the weather's getting warmer.
You need an expansion podcast. GIF.
We'll try and make that happen. Paulie, take note of that, brother. We need a GIF for expansion.
I'll share the
yeah?
secrets. I
I already know the secrets, brother. The secrets were shared. I just haven't capitalized. I'll get around to it, mi hermano. Real quick, I think we might have played around with this in our last podcast, but I think a few more people might be seeing this one. But I think it's still cool. Real quick, so favorite artists, favorite tracks. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Who's your favorite MC? If you could pick one.
I'm a massive Jay-Z fan. Yeah.
Jay-Z.
Love Jay-Z.
Uh-huh.
But it's hard for me to pick favorite anything musically because
too.
I just love new music
Yeah.
and I love new sounds.
Okay. So from, say, 2018 onwards? Like new kind of...
There's heaps, man. Like...
Because that's where I get lost a little bit.
Yeah. I like, you know, I think ASAP Ferg is dope. You know, there's a lot of amazing Australian stuff, you know, guys like B-Wise.
Yep. Shouts to B-Wise, man.
I've got a record out with him.
Yep.
And Flip De Niro.
Yep.
From the States. Flip De Niro is another dope new artist.
DJNinoBrown.com if they want to hear all these things.
DJNinoBrown.com.
Yep.
Just look me up on Spotify, DJ Nino Brown.
Yep. Because they're cool tracks, man. The Flip De Niro one. Man. The B-Wise one the B-Wise one is dope, man. I love it.
Yeah, B-Wise is a beast.
Yeah.
You know, there's guys like Manu Crooks out here. You know, guys like 1-4 are making a big impact, and the music's cool. It's different. Like, there's so many, man. But I mean, even like Nicki Minaj has got a new song, and you remember the group Escape?
Yeah.
And Tiny. I think is that T.Y.'s wife, Tiny?
You lost me.
But one of the girls from Escape's called Tiny. I think it's actually T.I.'s wife.
Okay.
T.I.'s wife's from that group Escape.
I had no idea, bro.
Yeah, so her money
Escape
started him
Escape
off.
from back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she kicked his career off with her money. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, apparently as the story goes. What the fuck do I know?
Probably hooked him up.
But Nicki Minaj says something like blah blah blah. It can't be Tiny like the girl from Escape. And like I hear little things like that in the songs. Think fuck, that's cool. Like this is Nicki Minaj. You know, like
paying homage. Yeah.
And just being like clever.
Yeah.
You know, so I love shit like that. Like.
Yeah. Me too. I think that's why a lot of people, the game, when he came out, resonated with a lot of people because, you know, he was all about paying respect to all the people that came before him and throwing them back. And
he reminded you of things
that you lived.
And liked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like, and, you know, speaking of game, like when that record came out, it was a West Side Story, and he's like Crips, Bloods, West Side, Asians, Puerto Ricans, blacks, white boys, Jamaicans, like every gang guy in LA. He's
okay. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Was Game was like shouting everyone out.
Of course, but it made everyone, everyone that listened to that song fit into one of those categories.
You
know,
yeah.
But like you said, musically, like there's just so much, man. Like, you know, Mariah Carey's got a new song, and she's redone "Killing Me Softly." It features Lauryn Hill.
Wow.
Now, when I first saw it come up on the thing, I was just like, and you know, Mariah Carey's phenomenal.
Of course.
And at first it was like Killing Me Softly, featuring Lauryn Hill.
Yeah,
and apparently Lauryn Hill's hard to work with. She's very particular, a little eccentric, whatever. But they've got her on this, so she's approved it.
Yeah.
And you listen, she's done a great job. Like, so, you know, there could be new music from Mariah Carey in 2020. That song came out a couple of weeks ago. But there's just so much new music, man. Like, so much. I like that Sweetie song, that tap in. Yeah. She's redone the Too Short record, but the shit's catchy, you know. And it's funny. People are sometimes like, "Oh, I don't like this or I don't like that," and I'm a huge Pusha T fan as well. Pusha T,
Yeah.
crazy. But I remember seeing a Pusha T interview, and he was saying how a lot of people don't like this rap or that kind of rap, but they don't see it in the club.
Mm.
And he said he hated hyphy music from the Bay.
Yeah.
And then when he was in the Bay in a club playing hyphy music,
understood
and
it.
experienced it.
Yeah, that's right.
Then he loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for guys like us, because we're in the club, Save the Day, that's the record. Because
Don't play it, Paulie.
because
Get us in trouble, man.
because we're in the clubs,
Yeah.
and I'm on the radio, and I'm immersed in all this new hip hop and R&B. I love all of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I actually don't like hearing the old stuff because they're really like some of the '90s rap that are classics. They're recorded so badly, and so you hear them now and you think, fuck, like it almost dampens the memory.
Yeah, being an audiophile, there's such a huge difference in the way music is produced, mixed, and mastered. Just the fatness of it and the wideness of it nowadays, and how clean and crisp. And it's true, it kind of turns you off a lot of those anthems, which for us were wow back in the day. You hear them now, and it's like, it sounds like a little box.
Yeah, so.
But nah, I hear you on that one. But I'm of the opinion that I think because nowadays songs are almost made in, let's say, a quarter of the time they used to be, I think that's had an impact on how the whole production of music is handled, or almost that doesn't seem to be that much of a craft kind of mentality going into it.
Yeah,
with
music's
lots of
definitely more.
exceptions.
Music's definitely more disposable.
Yeah, it's a lot more
And
disposable.
I think the way a lot of artists keep you hooked is to consistently put out music.
Yeah, that's right. That's very true as well.
And it's funny, like, look, I'm a Nicki Minaj fan, but I'm not like a Nicki Minaj fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same.
But like, she can rap her ass off.
Yeah, she can.
right?
She's a beast.
And I feel like every song she does, if you actually like listen,
Yeah.
her verses are pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she got one song called Yikes that I like a lot that came out 6 months or so back.
Yeah.
But she's got some good records, you
Look,
know?
Nicki, strictly music, yeah? I mean, she's a crazy bitch and whatever, but if she wanted to go full-blown hip-hop, lyrical, I reckon she'll eat anyone, from the females and a lot of guys too.
Yeah, no,
she's a beast.
Awesome.
She's a beast. And every now and then, thankfully, she still drops those sort of nuggets, gold nuggets amongst all the other kind of poppy experimental stuff that gets a bit weird sometimes. But no, she's definitely a beast. And again, I'm not a fan, but I can appreciate.
Like it's like some of her records are crazy. Like G-Eazy is another one. G-Eazy's got some great records. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much good music. I mean, and it's funny, like, Tiger's like the hook guy now, right?
Yeah.
He's like the modern day Akon at the moment.
Yeah.
But and it's funny because he'll do all these records and they'll all be really fucking good. And so sometimes it's hard on the radio because I don't want to play G-Eazy featuring Tiger. Wiz Khalifa featuring Tiger.
And Tiger on his own,
Tiger featuring Ty Dolla $ign.
Well, he's on the new that Black Eyed Peas song that just dropped, the La Vida Loca with Nicky Jam. He's on that too, Tiger, so he's getting around as well. He's all over the place. He's with J Balvin and that as well, on that whatever came
there's
out
so much. There's a lot of good music coming out. Man.
But we got lost a little bit, man, because I was trying to say how I try to encourage the conversation to be about what we can kind of part with for people that maybe want to be a DJ. There's hopefully there's lots of young kids tuning in, listening, and even not so young ones. So if you were to give some advice to aspiring DJs, existing DJs that want to improve and be better and expand their career, or people that are just starting out, what would that advice be, Brown?
I think you've got to find something unique to yourself that other people will find entertaining, because people need to come see you and they've got to want to see you. And it's funny, like all of us as DJs,
point of difference,
we used to feel like we were all competing with each other to a degree. But now I'm the total opposite. Like, I'm kind of like, when I'm DJing, I'm expressing my personality through music. And I get on the mic a lot when I'm DJing. And I have a lot of fun with it now. Like, I'm very relaxed. Like, I'll see a dude jump up on the podium and I'll stop the music and I'll be like, bro, unless you got breasts, no podium. We want to see women, where my ladies at, and just have fun. People laugh and whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Now, Peter Guns is not going to do that because Peter Guns is going to do Peter Guns.
That's right.
And that's what makes Peter Guns successful.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone's just got their own personality. You got to be comfortable in your own skin.
Compete without competing, kind of thing, right? So you're competing because essentially, you know,
it's
there's
like
only
the rappers. Like you wouldn't say, you know, sometimes it might be like, oh, Nicki Minaj is competing with, you know, Megan Thee Stallion, but they're not. They're doing their own thing.
No.
And even now, like for example, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, you got the song WAP, and it's huge, you know. But yeah, like Cardi B's personality is similar to Megan's, where they both got the sort of sexy girl thing, but they're different. Cardi's kind of more ratchet and ghetto, and Megan's kind of just more on the fun girl, hot girl summer vibe.
Yeah.
You just got to do you and be entertaining, you know. But that's the thing. You got to somehow be entertaining, you know, and do the work. Like we all get caught up. Like I took advantage of COVID and I updated my Mixcloud. Shout to mixcloud.com/DJ Nino Brown.
Yeah.
But I got all my shit updated, all my mixes, and you've got to do stuff like that to make people. I say this to people all the time. Like I've had DJs go, oh, blah, 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 my fans. And I go, what fans? And they look at me like I'm being rude. I'm like, no, what I mean though is if someone's driving to see you at a gig, can they go on their phone and find you on Spotify, on Apple Music? Are you on Mixcloud? Where can they access you to be your fan? You've got to give stuff to your fans.
Yes, man.
What do you give to your fans, you know?
Yeah.
And even during COVID, like some DJs have been more active than others. And it's not easy when there's no money coming in.
Of course.
And you're not inspired. But like we were doing some live stream stuff, like you've got to just sometimes do stuff to give stuff to your fans, you know?
Yeah, man. And stay relevant and stay tuned in, plugged in, and with the ear to the ground.
And that's where you can also see the people who love it versus the people who are just there for the money.
Exactly. But yeah, I hear you, man. Or for the pussy. Because I think a lot of people start out for you know.
Yeah.
Hey, but you bring up something that I want to ask you about because Sebi was mentioning it the other day. Mixcloud now has brought in like a new thing where you can do mixtapes and you get paid for it or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got something called Mixcloud Select. I don't use it at the moment.
Okay.
But you can choose to have certain content that people have to pay to listen to.
That's right, like a subscription thing, membership thing, yeah.
Yeah, it was like $3 or $4, something like that.
Okay, cool. Just as a heads up, you know, because it's cool.
Shouts to DJ Trey. Look up DJ Trey on Mixcloud. I think he's got one of the biggest ones in Australia. He's got like 5,000 people following him.
He's still doing the old school thing, right? Trey's been at it.
Yeah, he's got his old
years,
school. So, and the same thing, Trey's doing Trey, and that's why his success.
Shout out to Ash, man.
Because that's what he loves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
good man.
Yeah, he's doing really good off that.
Yeah.
You know, his Mixcloud is huge. I've only got like 700 or 800 people. Like I've been a bit slack on my Mixcloud.
Yeah.
Partly because I was selling mixes.
Yeah.
But now that that's all in the past.
Yeah.
Flood in the streets. Coming for you, Trey. Fucking coming. Fuck your 5,000 people in your Mixcloud. So like shit. Wait till I get on my old school soul. I'm fucking neo soul.
He'll do anything.
Jill Scott Records. Whatever you fucking need, motherfuckers. Sade.
Badu.
Yeah.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, an honor and a pleasure to have you, Nino. And thank you so much for joining us today, man. I'm sure we're going to have you on again. Please do not think for 1 second that because you've been on this show, it means that you can, not come
because
back.
I came on third. I think Paulie fucking hinged that. He's kept all the mints over there. This guy's got watermelon mints.
Yeah. He's got the stash. Look, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 types of mints, ladies and gentlemen.
No snacks in front of me. Next time I want charcuteries.
His rider. Did you get his rider, man? He's supposed to... No, it's not catered. Expansion's not catered.
We actually bought you a gift.
We
Really?
did.
Joking.
I was about to say Pornhub Premium is free now, so you know.
Wow. There you go. So Mixcloud, DJNinoBrown.com, and Pornhub Premium.
You got to
is
give
free.
it up to Pornhub. They gave it to Italy first. They unlocked Pornhub Premium for Italy when COVID was on. Did you know that?
Wow. No, I had no
It's
idea.
For real.
Wow.
Now Pornhub Premium is free
Aren't they
during
good
COVID.
people?
Fucking
Considerate,
special, you know,
good
like
people.
family oriented. The whole thing. You got to sign in.
Il corazone.
Yeah.
Nah, but for real, man. Look, hopefully we'll be here for a very long time. We'd love to have you
100%,
back.
100%.
Maybe we can connect with other people and bring them on board and have a whole lot of
100%,
fun.
100%.
Mi casa, su casa, la
Gracias.
finca. Whenever you want to come down, bring la familia like we did last weekend.
Beautiful,
Barbecue,
beautiful.
sauna, pool. You know, we're gonna have the veggies coming soon. So you know, you're part of this whole thing, man. You were there with me from day one when I got out. Much appreciated, mi hermano. Like I said
Always.
before, never be forgotten. And I hope we can do it again, man. Thank you so
100%.
much. Grazie, molto grazie, fratello. You're the
Beautiful.
man, my brother. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. And I just want to send a big shout out to Crash Claim, making friends by accident, and to my boys at Q Corp Construction, man. Shout out to everybody. Why are you laughing, brother? Now hold on, man. Don't stop, because actually I gotta send a shout out to Rydez Moto Gear, man. Our boy Abe. He came through with some goodies yesterday. So thank you, man. I'm gonna stand up. Can we go to 3?
What size is that? I need one. Is that I need a large. I feel like
Hey,
it's a medium.
make it happen, man. Make it happen for Nino Brown. Rydez Moto, man. Shout out to them. You're on camera 3?
You're lucky you got a shirt, because you didn't give me one for Illa Familia, did you?
Actually, good point. We're going to have to do something about that. Camera 3? I'm going to
Yeah,
stand up.
camera
There you go. Rydez Moto. Shout out to Abe and shout out to everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much, man. We'll see you next time. Brown, we're out. Muchas gracias.